Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to part 7,000 of The Gangly Man Forgets to Turn Lights On. Welcome to Sunday Fleet Review. We are going to go through the entire Tiny Whoop fleet here, which has gotten completely and utterly out of control. But it makes it so much easier to test stuff when you build like 2 or even 3 65mm rigs, for example. I've never gone that deep down the rabbit hole with the 75 rigs, thank God. But like, yeah, it's there's a bunch of stuff, and we're gonna talk about what each one of them does good, what they don't do well. At this point, most of these builds have a very specific task, and we're going to kind of hit on that, and in the process, you should learn an awful lot about like which motors do what best, and hell, we're even going to fly them all. I've got a whole shitload of batteries on the charger here, so we will put these guys up in the air. Do I only need one 450 mAh battery? I might need 2 of these. Let me charge a second one of these. So yeah, you'll get to see them fly in the basement. So I mean, the bigger ones are going to be a little bit rough down here. The tiny lifters are going to be carrying around the Insta360 Go 2 because that's what they were built to do. And yeah. Got a couple of Walksnail rigs. I got the cable still all hooked up for that, so we can fly those. You guys will get to see the difference between Walksnail and analog, which is like the difference between opening and closing your eyes. Yeah, it's going to be a good day. Shirt of the day is Mother! 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 It's Diablo 4. The main baddie in Diablo 4, I think they call Mother. I only played. I haven't played through the game yet. I've only played maybe 6 hours of the game. The Diablo games, not the Diablo games, Diablo 3 was a game that Azalea got super interested in really early on when Maggie bought this house. And so when, and I'd played Diablo 3 a ton, and it was amazing. When 4 came out, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, I jumped all over it, and both Azalea and I kind of lost interest pretty quick. I don't know what happened. It was kind of weird. But yeah, I haven't played it much. I haven't really played through like the first act, although I don't know if they have it broken up in acts anymore. I think it's just one big map at this point. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll revisit it someday. I did spend $60 on it. And no, I spent $60. I spent $130 on it because I had to buy a second PS5 controller for it. It wouldn't let me play on the PS5 controller and Azalea play on the PS4 controller, which was super annoying. So yeah, I ended up having to buy another $70 controller for it, but it was worth it. I'll do anything to spend time with the kids. So yeah, no regrets. My only regret is that they charge $70 for the controllers now. What the? I mean, I get it. The controllers have like on the trigger buttons, it's no longer just like vibrate, like it pushes against you. They're fancy as hell. The new controllers are pretty gnarly, but good lord, man, $70. Thanks to a super generous donation by Kevin Sumner that I missed during the 12-hour stream. This number here went up considerably, and I mean, I did wear the onesie for I think 2 extra hours by accident, which is basically what happened here. But in honor of all good things and super generous people, the red onesie is going to get worn for the live stream today. So let's just, let's keep our priorities straight, and we're gonna get this going first. Hey, we're doing Q&A, so fill up the as we always do. So fill up the chat with any questions that you've got. We've also got another installment of let's check out Ciotti's mailbag, MALE bag. So prepare to see my balls. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna go through the Tiny Whoop fleet, fly them all, talk about them all, and yeah, hopefully you'll learn a little bit. Hopefully you'll learn a little something. I'm sure you will. There's been a lot of testing and a lot of development done throughout the fleet, and a lot of comparisons. Like I've spent an awful lot of time comparing each one of these rigs to figure out which prop size is best, which not best, which prop size benefits each different kind of scenario, which motors match up best with which props, which frames work the best, all that good stuff. So we're going in more ways than one, yo. Man, I was on Gran Turismo 7 for like an hour last night in VR. It was just ridiculous. It's just so good. God damn. What a time to be alive. Okay. All right. There it is. The 12 hours of Christmas/New Year's continues for 2 more hours today. Here we go. FlashFPV says, are you supposed to wear pants under a onesie? I don't think so, but I ain't getting naked. And there's like this big zipper in the front. Like, I don't want my wiener to smash into this zipper. That's gross. What's that? Oh, piece of paper. So there it is. Dignity for sale, as always. It's expensive. My Dignity was more expensive this year. All right. There we go. Hold on. Let's make sure it's straight. We don't want to look like an idiot wearing a onesie. Onesie. Okay, there we go. This is my uniform for work. This is my work uniform, yo. Kevin Sumner was first in chat. Hacky Rounds was next. Bob Bruce, Apache Smoke, Wooded Sniper, Zach, Brandon Woodford, Volusia, Gusto, Flush FPV, Chuck P, Weebleed FPV, Gusto, Brandon Woodford again, Douglas Otwell, I missed that super chat or whatever it was. Brandon's Baked Beans, Kevin Sumner again, Denzel the Terrible. Wait, was it still up there? And I didn't see it? What did it say? Northern Tier, CH3FPV, Feigning Goat, Denzel the Terrible, Prop Junkie, Bob Noxious is here, Denzel the Terrible, Alexander Lewis Hughes, Frank Nicholas, 661FPV, Technique, Ethan W, Flush FPV, Fire Mike, Unluckiest Number, Expander, Dan Richmond, Scott FPV, Technique, Ethan W. What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming. Make yourselves at home, pull up a chair, and we're going to talk some shit for 2 hours. We're not going to talk much shit. We're going to talk lots of good stuff, lots of Tiny Whoop speak. Tiny Whoop speak? What the hell does that mean? Hold on, let me get more batteries on the charger. All right, so one of these 450s is good to go. That's amazing. And then I'm going to put 4 more 300s on. And I think that should be... Yeah. This will be enough. Well, the tiny lifters are going to eat up 2 batteries per. So, hold on. Let me make sure I do actually have enough here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11... Nope, I do not. I need to put 1 more on. I think this will be the exact right number. And there we go. The Vifly Whoopster is hard at work, charging at 0.9 of an amp, 6 batteries at a time. What a great little charger that thing has been. If you're looking to charge Tiny Whoop batteries, there's no better than the Vifly Whoopster. WHOOPSTOR, not ER. What's happening in chat? Bob Bruce says, howdy y'all, CiottiFPV. Hey, if you want to talk directly to me in the chat, all you got to do is type CiottiFPV. If you do it, it'll light up an orange like this, and I'll read that comment. If you don't do it, like Hockey Rounds here, I won't read your comment. What do you think of that? Apache Spoke Wounded Sniper, the man that we have to thank for so many of the wonderful timestamps. Quadbot as well. Quadbot has been going back in time, and then Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper goes forward in time with the timestamps on these live streams. Those two guys are just amazing. Such incredibly generous souls, willing to watch me. Full stop. Just willing to watch me. Apache Smoke says, what's up, CiottiFPV? Hello, gang of the gang. How's everybody doing this Sunday? Brandon Woodford says, hope you're having a good Sunday. We're getting the red onesie today. Kevin Sumner says, double check that your chargers are on full charge and not storage mode. Yeah, we're good. Feels like you've been hit by storage mode a lot recently. Yeah, no, we're good. I'm starting to figure it out. They should, I guess it does say on the screen, charge versus storage. It should be bigger. There should be a big chunk of text on the screen of the Vifly that says either storage or full charging, rather than the little switch on the side. That would be my request. It's just so easy to screw that up. Although, I don't know, for me, I guess it's nobody else. It doesn't really matter for anybody else, right? Like for me, when I screw that up, I don't have batteries during a live stream. As opposed to a pre-recorded live stream, I guess. Versus like everybody else. Well, I guess if you have like a Whoop race or something like that and you storage charge all your batteries, you're going to be pissed. So I guess it does matter for other people. But for me, it's like super annoying because, yeah, if they're all storage charged, I can't do anything on the stream that I've already, made a thumbnail for and talked about and shit. CH3FPV says, what's up, CiottiFPV and Gangling Gang? Hey, let me tell you guys a tale of vitamin C as I sniff a second ago. When I got sick the week before Christmas, when I got home, I started doing those emergency packets once a day. And I remembered for 3 days in a row. And I started to feel noticeably better that 3rd day in a row. And then the 4th day where I forgot to take it, I felt significantly better than the day before. Well, then I forgot to take that shit for almost an entire week. And I did not really feel much better at all during that week. And then beginning of this last, I think like a week or so ago, I forget when it was, but a bunch of days go by and I did not feel much better at all. But then I realized that I'd been forgetting to take it, and I took it for 2 days in a row, and it completely knocked out the lingering bullshit that I had from whatever it was, the flu, COVID, who the hell knows. So yeah, vitamin C, yo. I used to always have these Hall's vitamin C cough drops handy, and anytime my throat started, so I never had my tonsils removed, and they're just gigantic. So they've become like an early warning sign for being sick. The day before I was full blown sick on vacation, week before Christmas, I looked at Maggie and I was like, I'm gonna be sick as hell tomorrow, guaranteed. I could just feel it, and I felt totally fine, but I could just feel like the sickness coming for me. And sure enough, the next day I was a complete mess. So yeah, I always have these Hall's vitamin C, and they're just cough drops loaded with vitamin C. And so usually when my throat starts bothering me, I just start hammering those cough drops, and I typically kind of charge through sicknesses, and they don't stick around for very long. So yeah, no real surprises here, but just a reminder, to those of us in our old age, in our 40s and 50s and beyond, the importance of just loading up on vitamin C when you're starting to feel sick. It made a massive, maybe it won't for you, but for me, it made a huge difference in getting better quicker. So a little life lesson there for myself that hopefully I'll remember next time I feel like ass. What I really need to do is just go and snag a few bags of those vitamin C cough drops and just have them around. I'll usually like keep them in the coffee table, like literally, so that they're in front of me. I don't have to go digging around the bathroom for them or anything like that. So yeah, maybe do that. Sucks being sick, man. God, this was brutal. Whatever the hell I had, I'm pretty sure it was the flu. Was just disgusting. Like, there were 2 days of like total body just like ache, pain. Oh God, I was just like laying in bed, pouring sweat, like on vacation, just like writhing around in just agony, man. Oh, that was shit, dude. That was just brutal. CH3F, but I'm glad to be better now. CH3FPV says, what's up, CiottiFPV and Gangly Gang? Feigning Goat says, snow day equals whoops in CiottiFPV. Nice. Denzel the Terrible says, Ciotti, Ciotti, CiottiFPV, word up. Bob Noxious says, what's up, fam, and CiottiFPV? 661 says, hey, check out the new motors by Fractal Engineering on their website, EX802, 25,000 kV with 1.5mm shafts, 1.8 grams. That's pretty cool. EXs with 1.5mm shafts. 25,000 kV is too low, though. That's a shame. We really want 27. So if you're gonna run the 802s on a 65mm rig, you need to be sky high in the kV. You need to be up above 30,000. So those motors don't really work on a 65mm rig. They would work on a 75mm motor-to-motor rig, but the 27,000 kV IGAL motors are significantly better. They give you more headroom. You can motor limit them down if you don't want the extra power. But with a 75mm rig, you're probably going to be flying it outside. So yeah, the extra kV really does make a difference. So that's a shame. That's a miss on the kV number. Not surprising, when you're a hateful person making t-shirts to rip other people down, of course you're gonna not get the motor kV right. Way to go. Unluckiest number says, yes, it's me with a brand new Hummingbird, but no way to fly it. Sorry, brother. Espander says, hey, Gangly Gang, hi, CiottiFPV. Unluckiest number posted a comment, a big long comment about his pain in the ass FPV experience, and I was like, yep, that's FPV, my man. Welcome to the club. We've all got Stockholm Syndrome. Ethan W said, no wait, Scott FPV says, what up? Espander says, hey, Gangly Gang, hi, CiottiFPV. And Ethan W says, I think I'm going to turn my Walksnail 65 into a pusher. I figure that it will save me a couple tenths of a gram when I get rid of the canopy. The hardest part about doing that, Ethan, is figuring out where to put the battery. Because now the battery is like up on top where you kind of want to put the camera, and then it's like, where do you put the camera? So yeah, it's tough. And see, the other thing that's going to happen with the pusher is that it's going to be tough to, it's potentially going to be tough to take off when one of the main things I don't like about pushers is they put the props so close to the ground that, like, if there's a grain of rice, they're gonna hit them, and you might have trouble taking it back off. So, like, flying it outside is gonna be a nightmare. Like, landing it in the grass as a pusher, if it's smaller, it's just not gonna take back off. So in the house, it'll be a lot better. Kind of looking around to see if there are any scenarios where a pusher would not be able to take off around here. I can't really see anything. But yeah, it's super interesting. The pusher versus puller setup is really interesting. On the box frames, pushers are significantly more efficient, like up to 20% more efficient, which is wild. Box frames are not at all the same as tiny whoop frames, so there might not be as much of a efficiency increase, if at all, on a tiny whoop as a pusher versus a puller. Aerodynamic theory shows that pullers should be more efficient, which is super interesting. Yet again, like, drones, quads have such a strange aerodynamic and unique aerodynamic setup that they don't react in the same way that everything else in the world of flying stuff does. So that's kind of fascinating. I would love to see someone do an efficiency test on a completely identical tiny whoop that they've set up as a pusher and then as a puller. It would have to be the exact same weight. It would be really tough to do because, like, as a puller setup, you're probably going to have a centralized canopy. And then as a pusher, you can't really do that. So just that right there is going to change the aerodynamic setup. So yeah, I don't know how you would really do that, but that would be really cool. That would be a really cool test to do. I would also love to see it on a non-guarded. Like, I would love to see it on a 5-inch rig. And I guess it wouldn't be that hard to do. Because you would just have to find a frame that allows the camera to go into negative up tilt. And then I guess you would have to, like, hand launch it or something like that. It would be a little sketchy to launch it as a pusher. But yeah, it would be a lot easier to do on that. So yeah, if you do that and you do an apples to apples comparison, do an efficiency test. See if you can figure out which setup is more efficient. I would love to know that. Hockey Round says, looking down the 3D printing hole, looks like there is no bottom. Yeah, that's why I don't have one, because I would quit FPV and become a 3D printing channel, almost guaranteed. Apache Smoke Good December says, thanks for the shout out. You're welcome, bro. Prop Junkie says, what do you think of the new Whoop Fractal dropped last night? They are no longer on my radar. If you're a dick to me for no reason, if I've been nice to you for a long time and you treat me like shit, you're dead to me. So yeah, I don't care about anything that they do. Yeah, anytime you guys talk about them, I'm just gonna give this same exact spiel, and I'm just not giving them any mind or free publicity or anything. So yeah, sucks for them. I've always been cool with them. I've said nothing but nice things about the guy that runs that shop and their products, and I've always been very fair and very honest, as I am with all things. So yeah, super shitty what they did, but hey, some people just don't get it. 661FPV says, those motors are made for a 75mm, and you know we only make cinematic products, lol. I'm gonna butcher this, man. I apologize, but I think maybe Amiral says, "Have you tried anything with the 45mm prop?" Great question. I have not, mainly because the 1.6-inch propellers, like the regular sized prop for standard 75mm motor-to-motor rigs, is plenty powerful and plenty efficient, and the frame that takes that prop, the Mobula 7 V4 frame, is better than the BetaFPV Meteor frame. It's just basically more durable. So yeah, like this setup right here, this is my like outdoor tiny whoop setup. I call this the Jungle Gym Basher, because I love to fly jungle gyms and smash them into things with it. This has all of the power that I ever would want. The frame is nice and durable, and that's, I mean, those are kind of two of the, like, beyond that, there's just no reason to stray away from this. I don't need the extra power or efficiency from the 45mm propeller, and I don't want to use the weaker and more floppy Meteor 75, I guess it would be, Pro frame. So yeah, I'm all about testing stuff, right? Like I absolutely love it, but a lot of times I don't test stuff just for the sake of testing stuff. Like if you want more power or efficiency than this, in my opinion, you should go to a toothpick. This is absolutely perfect for jungle gyms. And if you're flying outside but you're not flying around a jungle gym, it should be a toothpick. Like the point of having guards is that you're gonna bump into stuff and you don't want to stall the props out all the time, or wreck the motors. So this, in a jungle gym setting, is amazing. What's bigger than a jungle gym that you need the prop guards for, right? Like toothpicks, the other argument with prop guards is that they're safer. Well, I mean, you can smack somebody full steam with a 2S toothpick and they're just gonna laugh. Like, I guess if you hit them in the face, in the eye, like maybe they're not gonna laugh, but it's, yeah, I just don't. I think there's a lot of. It's very easy to fall into like the hype train of like, oh my god, you know, they made this. It makes more power. I think you really have to stop often and just take a step back and be like, hold on, let me check. Let me make sure that I'm not just building this because a company is selling it. Let me make sure that I'm building this for a reason. All that being said, if you like the way that the bigger propellers fly and you're having a good time with it, that's all that matters. Like so much of this is personal preference, and you know, my personal preference is not right for everyone. It's right for me. So for me, this is the biggest tiny whoop that I really need, and this frame is so much more durable and resistant to flexing, which helps it to damp the vibrations coming from the motors and props, yada yada yada. That this for me is the biggest tiny whoop that I really want or need. So yeah, but that's why I haven't gone down the 45mm rabbit hole. So where are we at here? Good question, brother. Thank you for asking that. 661 says, and those 25,000, 661 says, okay, got it. Morton Upshot says, to test two exact configurations, one is push, one is pull, I think tethering both to a scale and see which one sends the scale more negative. Yeah, I have. I've attempted to do that in a couple different ways. And I've just found that there's like kind of too much variance with it. yeah, I haven't done that. I've flipped the whoops upside down and had them push down into the scale for that. And yeah, they're just I think we got some decent results, but they weren't like super repeatable. So yeah, it's really tough. But the long and short of it though is testing. Once these things are up in the air, the static thrust testing goes right out the window. So that, although, what's interesting is, oh no, it would still be yeah, no, it would still be the same problem. Yeah, static thrust testing does not tell the whole story. And so in the end, just putting these things up in the air and having identical rigs that you can fly back to back to back unbelievably gives much more accurate results to the real world because of the inflowing air when you're actually flying for real. A loaded thrust test where you're holding this thing in place, it has to work so much harder to pull all of this static air down in and then push all of that air out against static non-moving air. As soon as you're flying these in the real world and they start to accelerate, now there's a bunch of inflowing air, which is easier to pull in and easier to push out. And so, yeah, real world flight testing is unfortunately where we need to put most of our effort and whatnot. That being said, we can learn a lot from the static bench testing. For sure we can. 661 says, not to stir the pot, but I don't think they really meant any harm with the shirt logo. I honestly think everything you say about that frame is 100% correct, and you use that frame yourself. I do. And like, this is not meant to be a bash on you at all, 661. You know I love you. But the fact that you don't think that they meant any harm by the shirt logo doesn't really matter. The fact that I took offense to it is all that matters because it's about me. And, like, that just is what it is. I take a lot of offense to it. I think it was a super shitty thing to do, and that's kind of all that matters. Like, if nobody else thinks that, yeah, you don't look. If you were in a scenario at work every day where it would be so much easier to do something in one. Okay, so you've got a coworker, and you go out of your way to help that coworker out every single day, over and over and over again for months, if not years, right? You help that coworker out over and 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 over again, and then out of the blue, they wear a shirt making fun of you. You would not feel very good about that. That's the experience that I had to go through. CMYK and I put a lot of time and effort into the logo, and for somebody to just rip that off and then put shit that's not true on it that makes me look like an asshole, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. Let's not bring it up again because it really pisses me off, and I don't deal well with shit like that. Like, negative comments on the internet are something that I do not deal well with. I never have. I probably never will. So shit like this drives me fucking nuts, and I don't appreciate it, and it's just, yeah, it's just not cool. And like, if some of you guys don't get that, that's fine. That's totally fine. You're not me. I'm an ultra sensitive human being, and I've worked my ass off in lots and lots and lots of therapy for many years with 6, 7, 8 different talk therapists, to be able to handle that and be better about that. But some things about us are just there. Like, we just have baked in things that you can work as hard as you want to get over, and you kind of never will. Like, you can manage them, but they're always going to be there. Mental illness is a great example of that. I struggle horribly with anxiety and depression, have forever. They're there. I'm in a better place now than I've ever been. I was in a really dark place 3-ish years ago, and almost didn't make it out. And today, I wouldn't dream of doing that, right? So massive progress has been made there, but my depression, my anxiety are, as I recently heard somebody put it on on Instagram, they're out in the parking lot doing push-ups. Like, they're just fucking waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And they visit sometimes and they kick the shit out of me, but I have more tools and I'm in a better living situation now to be able to, instead of losing like multiple weeks of my life to them, I lose like a day or two. And that's a fucking triumph, man. I can't, like, if you don't have like like, keep in mind, there's a really big difference between just like being sad sometimes and like having actual clinical depression. There's a big difference between feeling stressed and a little bit nervous and having generalized anxiety disorder. This isn't a pissing contest here. I'm just saying, like, many people don't fully understand real mental illness, and that's okay. That's great. I don't want anyone that doesn't have to experience this to experience this. It is not fun. And so, yeah, everybody's allowed to have their own experience, but you gotta just, if you don't have those things, if you've not been diagnosed with those things, you gotta just believe us, right? It's super important, and be as understanding for people that are not acting right out in the real world, because you don't know what they're going through. It could be the worst day of their life. And we get really good at hiding it, is the long and short of it. Mental illness stuff is not acceptable yet, especially in America. It's viewed as you being weak or weird or just an asshole sometimes. And so we hide it, and we get lots and lots and lots of practice hiding it, right? Like, you hide it at work every day because, God for fucking bid, management finds out that there's something wrong with you. They're going to try to get rid of you in a goddamn hurry. So, yeah, we get a lot of practice hiding it, and that makes it much worse. I try my best to talk about it when I can. A lot of times I can't, because it just doesn't put me in a great place. But when it needs to get talked about, I try my best to kind of talk about it as much as I can. So there you go. There's your real life rant for the day. Like I said, the whole fractal thing, if you guys don't understand why I'm so upset, that's fine. But I'm upset, and I'm allowed to be upset. So I ain't going to feel bad about it. I'm not going to feel like an asshole, even if everybody doesn't understand it. It just sort of is what it is. That's the way it's going to be. If that makes me a shitbag, then welcome to the shitbag channel, my friends. All right, where are we at? Nick Burns is in the house. What's up, Nick? You came at the very weird time. I'm wearing a red onesie, which is a leftover from the 12 hours of New Year's stream. There was a super chat that came in that I didn't see on that 12-hour stream, so I'm making up for it by wearing the onesie for this whole live stream today. Thanks for coming, brother. If you guys are not subscribed to Nick Burns, what are you doing? How have you missed him? Get over there and subscribe right now. Nick has arguably the best micro channel on all of YouTube. His reviews are phenomenal. He gets like all of the new products to test. It's amazing. Great insight into how these things fly versus one another. For me, one of the biggest values of Nick's channel is not really paying much attention to how the bind and flies themselves fly, but listening to him go through the specs of them and listen very specifically for the all-up weight and the motors and the propellers. Like, bind and flies are bind and flies. Sometimes there'll be one that it's just completely jacked up and like there's too many vibes or the tune is awful and it's just gonna fly terrible. Nowadays, most of them fly pretty damn good. So Nick's reviews are brilliant because he reviews so much stuff with totally different motors, different sizes, different KVs, and different propellers, and you can really learn a lot by watching him fly, listening to what he's saying, and yeah, you know, a lot of you folks on this channel are more into like custom builds and really haven't bought a bind and fly in forever. So it's easy to kind of say, like, yeah, why would I watch a review about a bind and fly? This is why. You're going to get a bunch of really good data about motors, props, and even the frames too. Like, especially with the crash data. You know, if Nick crashes 3 times and the frame breaks, don't buy that frame, yo. Like, there are frames that you can crash hundreds of times and they won't blow up. So yeah, amazing channel, super cool guy. And super generous to the FPV community. Nick is one of the folks that we are very, very, very lucky to have. So get your ass subscribed over there, because yeah, it's just really, really, really good stuff. And he's a great pilot, and he's been around a long time. So you're gonna get like that nice depth of knowledge that you don't get from most channels. Emerald says guilty. Yeah, trying to board the hype train, got some extra 1102s, that's why. You know, I mean, if you have an extra set of 1102s and you're not going to sell them, why not? Why not buy the frame for $4, the propellers for $3 or whatever it is? The AIO and the camera are going to cost you something extra. But, you know, here's something that I do that I really recommend you all do. Because I know you have extra motors and frames floating around, is do this. I have a bunch of these. Like, I have more back there. Your extra motors and your extra frames, put them together like this. Pair the motors up with the props that you think they would live with, perform the best with, rather. And just let this hang out. And when you're bored, you take 4 screws out of your AIO. You unplug 4 motor plugs, you take your camera and canopy out of this, and you drop it in here, and you fly it around, and you screw around with these motors, and you use these props, and you see if you like them. This is the easiest way that I've found to do testing without buying more and more. And I mean, as you can see here, I've gone down the rabbit hole of buying a lot of AIOs and cameras, although some of them have been donated, which is amazing. But yeah, this is the cheapest and easiest way to do testing. And there's a lot of testing with this stuff. Like, it really does help to fly a lot of different combinations to figure out which ones you like best and which ones connect with your brain the best. So yeah, do it, my friend. No reason not to. Expander says, maybe speak to Chris Rosser. He should be able to come up with a good test. Chris's setup really won't scale down for Tiny Whoop stuff. And we've also got a person in the FPV world, Ethan from Micromotor Test Lab, who does a lot of like behind the scenes Tiny Whoop motor testing. He works with Jesse from Tiny Whoop a lot. And so, yeah, we've got folks that are testing this smaller stuff, which is great. But so perfect example actually, even more drastic example are these 32,000 kV Tiny Whoop 702s. Jesse almost didn't make these because when Ethan did the bench testing, thrust stand testing rather, of these 32,000 kV motors versus the 30,000s, they didn't make any extra power on the thrust stand. But when you fly these 32,000s versus the 30s, there's absolutely a difference in thrust in the air. Take that a big step further. These Firefly 702 36,000 kV motors, again, on the bench, these will perform worse than the 30,000 kV motors, but in the air, they absolutely make more thrust than the 32,000. So, yeah, bench test, thrust stand testing is great, and we can learn a lot from it. But there is a point when we get up into like the higher levels of what we're asking from these motors and these powertrains. There's a point where the thrust stand just does not tell the whole tale. In order for it to tell the whole tale, we would basically have to build a wind tunnel for it, and the wind tunnel would have to ramp the airspeed up and down in accordance with what the motors on the rig are doing. And I mean, like, how much do you offset that, right? Like, do you set the incoming air to be 5 miles an hour faster than what? And then like, how do you even do that? I guess you could maybe do it by RPM. I guess you could pick like an RPM offset, but like, how would you ever know if that RPM offset is correct to the real world, right? Like it's a super confusing scenario to have to kind of like, and then in the end, if you have a really skilled pilot that's flown shitloads of batteries, you know, we can take 32,000s and 36,000s and fly them both back to back on a bunch of batteries and say, yup, this is making more power, let's make this motor. Rather than, you know, hey, this one doesn't make any more power, there's no reason to make a 36,000 kV motor. 32,000 is the max for this motor size. Let's stop there. So yeah, it's super interesting, man. The testing side of this is really difficult, but really fun at the same time. One of the things I love most about thrust stand testing and the way that Chris Rosser does it is the response time testing that he does. That, I guess the response times are going to be dulled down just a hair because it's a static thrust stand, but it's not super thrust dependent. The response time tests are mainly weight of the motor bell and weight of the propeller dependent. So I think that data is absolutely super important, and accurate. Very accurate, but also very important to getting a powertrain that can deliver a quick enough response time where you don't have to go bananas with the PID gains to kind of put a band-aid on the flight performance. So unluckiest number says, which logo is it? I see an avocado. I've said my piece. I'm not going to dive back down that rabbit hole. Bob Noxious says, I am with you. The BS, let's stay positive and move forward. Nothing but love, brother. Thank you, dude. I mean, for the record, too, just so that you guys don't think I'm a total lunatic, I explained the whole situation from Jesse to Jesse at Tiny Whoop, and he was kind of pissed, too. And he actually confronted Eves, like, publicly in front of everybody about it and was like, dude, not cool at all. So it's not just me that yeah, thought it was, like, not cool. And Jesse is a super level-headed guy, too. So, like, the fact that he got it and could understand where I was coming from, I was like, okay, good. I'm not a total lunatic. 661 says, sorry for bringing this up. Thanks for everything you do for us. Knowledge expressed to the community. It's all good, brother. It's fine. It was going to come up at some point anyway. I'm sure it'll come up again. It's fine. TBL955 with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. Super, what's the word? I still can't think of the word. Generous. Generous is the word. Super generous, brother. He says, just ripped my Meteor 65 and somehow crashed in the 6-inch dog dish of all places. Yeah, you and me both, man. Thanks for all your help over the past year and enjoy your channel. So when, not if, when you crash your rigs into fresh water, if you crash them into salt water, they're pretty much done. But if you put any quad into the water, unplug the battery as quick as you can. Some people say unplug it underwater. I always forget. I pull it out of the water, start shaking it off, and unplug it, and it's always been fine. Get the battery unplugged as quick as possible and get it in front of a fan. Fuck the rice, screw the silica packets. No, just put it in front of a fan. If you're out flying in your car, get it into the passenger's footwell of your car, turn your car on, turn the air conditioning on. That is going to dehumidify the air. And I guess what you would want to do is air conditioning on and then turn the heat all the way up, right? Because if you get it hot, more of the moisture is going to evaporate. So yeah, air conditioning on, heat on, full blast. Grab your other rigs and keep flying. Just let your car sit there idle. And just put the vents on full and on floor, and put the quad right in the airflow of the vent on the floor, to just blow as much air on it as possible. And then when you get home, or if you're flying at home, get a fan, any old fan that you've got, crank that fan up to full blast, point it straight up, put the quad up on top of it, let that thing sit for 24 hours, and I can almost guarantee you it'll be totally fine. I have had pretty much every single one of these tiny whoops fully submerged in the sink or dog or cat bowl at some point in their lives, and I don't think I've lost anything. Cameras can go. Like, moisture getting inside of a camera can ruin it. The inside of the camera can fog up. Like, there's cameras and moisture are not are not friends. But electrical components, PCBs and whatnot, they're relatively waterproof as long as there's not electricity going through them, and as long as it's fresh water. Salt water is conductive, fresh water is not. And so, yeah, get it in front of a fan, and it'll be good to go within 24 hours. What will kill it is if you don't let it sit in front of the fan for 24 hours, you let it sit in front of the fan for 20 minutes, and then you go, I have to know. Is it broken? I have to know. And you plug power in, and that's when you'll actually kill them. So get your shit in check, bro. You can do this. You cannot know for 24 hours. It's going to be the longest 24 hours ever. But, yeah, it's an exercise in patience in the grand scheme of things. If you want to look at the world in a nice holistic view and look at all bad things as positives, as I try my best to do. Thank you again for the super chat, brother. Great question. Unluckiest number says, or they look at you differently. It sucks. That's okay. Everybody looks at you differently. It is not up to you to control that. You just put positive shit out into the world, do your best, live the happiest life you can, and anybody that can't accept that, fuck them. Fuck them for life. Christopher R. Besson with a $4.20 super chat. The weed number, he says, thank you for talking about it. Peace and love from Rhode Island. Thank you for your generosity using the weed number and, yeah, getting it. Simon says, nearly... I don't know if I'll ever not laugh at... It's like such a fucking dad joke, but yeah, someone named Simon, and just by whatever coincidence, every single time that I read a chat comment, I say the person's name and then the word says. Nearly missed this because I was watching another of your streams about repairing a broken ceramic cube. That's a good one. Yeah, the revelation that we could that we could replace the ceramic ELRS tower antennas with a piece of wire, which is both more durable, functions better as an antenna, and is what was the first one? I don't know. It's just better in every way. I don't recommend that you break the ceramic antennas off because they kind of do work fine. But if/when your ceramic ELRS antenna breaks off, yeah, you can replace it with a little piece of tuned wire. When I say tuned, I mean the length of the wire. If you didn't know, antennas are tuned by their length. So this... Come on! This little guy that you can buy in a 10-pack... Jesus, you can't even see it. You can buy a 10-pack of these. These are 2.4 gigahertz length, little tiny pieces of wire that if you solder these down to where a 2.4 gigahertz antenna needs to go, it'll work beautifully. And it'll actually outperform the ceramic antennas. On my channel, if you use the little magnifying glass and search for ELRS antenna or antenna repair, 3 or 4 times now on the channel, I have replaced the ceramic antennas or, yeah, on the Happy Model boards that have broken off with little pieces of wire. If you don't buy the 10-pack from Newbie Drone, what you can also do is if you've got like if you've got an old FR Sky receiver floating around, they were 2.4. They're going to have an antenna that has a black section and then a silver section. The black section, that's a shielding. The black shrink wrap, under the black shrimp wrap is wire braiding that's shielding, and it's making that part of the antenna not do anything. Once it goes to silver and you no longer have that black covering, that's the active element of the antenna, and the length of that is very important. 2.4 gigahertz versus 5.8, they're going to have a whole different length. So with an old FR Sky antenna, what you can do is look at that silver portion and then cut it off ever so slightly before that silver portion, because you need a little bit to solder, right? You're going to solder it down to a pad, and that little solder blob is not going to count as an antenna. So cut the tiniest little bit extra off, solder that thing on. When the ELRS tower antenna breaks off, there's going to be 4 pads there. 3 of those are ground pads. 1 of them is an active pad. What I do is just solder it to 1, fire it up, see if the ELRS signal strength is dog shit or good. If it's dog shit, pick another pad. And yeah, you got 25% chance of getting it right. And yeah, you'll end up with a tiny little antenna that actually functions better than the little ELRS antenna. It's a little bit lighter. It's more durable. I mean, technically speaking, it kind of makes sense to just break the ELRS antenna off because you get better everything. But the worry about just on purpose breaking the ELRS antenna off is that if you break it off and you pull all the pads off, you've ruined that AIO. If it breaks off on its own when you're flying, it's kind of like, well, I broke the AIO. If it rips the pads off, it's like, well, yeah, I broke the AIO. If it doesn't rip the pads off, you're like, score. I have not had it rip the pads off before, so you should be fine. I have tried to remove those tower antennas with heat, and boy, is it difficult. Like, you got to blob a bunch of solder in there. You got to try to get the heat on 2 of the pads, and then like angle the tower antenna to one side. Well, now it's going to put a ton of stress on the other 2 pads. God forbid one of those other 2 pads is the signal pad. You're kind of starting to lift it, and then you got to come onto the other side. I will never do it again. I will always just, I mean, this rig is a good example. It still has the ELRS tower antenna on it, and it will remain there until it eventually does break off, and then I'll fix it. But yeah, I'm never removing another one of those things again. I just, yeah, I don't have a great way of doing it. Nick Burns says, an adult onesie? I didn't know. Yeah, they make adult onesies, brother. In all different colors, too. Amazon is a beautiful place. Nick also says, I appreciate all the kindness. Enough. I will have to bail. Unluckiest number says, what size 2-blade and manufacturer for the Hummingbird? There are 3 bi-blade Tiny Whoop 1.2-inch propellers. 1 by Newbie Drone, 1 by HQ, 1 by GemFan. The GemFan is brilliant. No complaints about it. It's the one that you want. The HQ bi-blade, the top of the propeller where the motor shaft goes through is closed. So you can't push it all the way down on the motor shaft. The problem with that is when you crash and the propeller smacks into the ducts, if the propeller is sitting up really high on the motor shaft, it's got all this leverage and it's going to bend the motor shaft and ruin the motor. It is really important for durability on Tiny Whoops to push the propeller all the way down on the motor shaft. The motor shaft will actually stick out the top of the propeller. The top of the propeller will sit like that. That's how far down you can usually push them. Technically, you can drill them out on the HQ propeller, but don't do that. The propeller is not any better. There's no reason to go through that. It's just silly. And in the process of drilling it out, you can get it not perfectly centered. It's just stupid. There's no reason to do it. The Newbie Drone Venom bi-blades, they're good. The top of the propeller is open, so you can push them all the way down on the shaft. But the main problem is the hole is a little bit too small. So pushing the propeller on is incredibly difficult. Getting it off is sometimes impossible. I have had to cut those propellers off. And the prop doesn't really perform any better than the GemFan prop. So again, why go through that? Like, the GemFan bi-blade is just, it's the one. There's no reason to run anything other than that. I've tested the performance between the 3 of them, and there's really no significant difference. From what I've seen, the GemFan actually performs the best. So yeah, get the best performing one that you don't have to drill out, that you don't have to worry about it getting stuck on your motor. And yeah, profit. Jarbeezy Pilot says, I'm building a Walksnail Tiny Whoop on a Meteor 65 Pro frame. 0802 27,000 kV and 35 millimeter GemFan tri-blades. Your opinion, why don't more people go digital this way? Your last question is the best question in there, Jarbeezy. Why don't more people go digital this way? Long story short, it's too heavy. So Walksnail is basically a 6-gram weight penalty over analog. And when we're talking about a rig that only weighs like 18 or 19 grams for the little guys, or for the 75 millimeter rigs, you're up at like 24, 25 grams. Adding 6 grams is ridiculous. That is the equivalent of like taking a 700 gram 5-inch rig and adding like 100 grams to it. And the difference in flight characteristics between 700 and 800 is night and day. Like, it's brutal. And with Tiny Whoops, it's the same thing. So putting Walksnail onto a Tiny Whoop, same with HD0. HD0 is a 5-gram weight penalty. Just going digital on a Tiny Whoop is really difficult. The way that these things perform with analog is wild, and you can do some crazy off-throttle, inverted, wild stuff. When you put Walksnail onto them, they fly more like the old-school brush Tiny Whoops, where you lose a lot of the verticality. I mean, we're going to review all these in a little bit here, and I'm going to fly them all, and you're going to get to see that. You're going to get to see that the Walksnail rigs really struggle, and you, like, just hammering the throttle and then jumping off the throttle and having it sail through the air. Like, instead of it actually sailing through the air, it feels like there's a lead weight tied to it, and it kind of like just, and it just gets dragged down. So yeah, with Tiny Whoops, because we don't have power to weight ratios that are like 10-to-1, adding 6 extra grams, 5 extra grams is a massive penalty. So that's why most people don't do that, just because the analog rigs fly so much better. That being said, I've like fallen in love with these Walksnail builds because like the video quality is just absurd, and it's like really, really, really cool to get to have something so small that has such good video quality is just wild. Your build there is kind of interesting. So here's what I can tell you about your selection of parts. I think, and I could totally be wrong, but I think I'm pretty dialed in on this. I've tested most of this stuff. I believe that the 0802 27,000s with the bigger 35 millimeter. 35 millimeter, is that 1.6 inch? In inches. 35 millimeter is 1. Oh, right. Okay, Meteor 65 Pro is what you're building. Okay. You said 35, I read 45. You even said Meteor 65 Pro frame. Yeah, I saw 35 as 45. Okay, interesting. Hold on. 27,000 kV Meteor Pro. Interesting. Let us know how that is. I don't like the Meteor 65 Pro frame. I find it to be super wobbly, and not all that durable. And on 65 millimeter rigs, normally, I don't need the extra power that you can potentially get from the slightly bigger propellers. But with Walksnail, so we're gonna fly this guy in a little bit. This is regular old 65 millimeter, and with Walksnail on here, it struggles a little bit for power. I would love to have more power from this. So a Meteor 65 Pro framed build would be kind of interesting here. And I've kind of always been looking for a reason to do it. Analog, I don't think to me, there is not a reason to do it with an analog build. But with a Walksnail build, it makes a lot more sense. I have one of the frames, and I have a set of the triblade propellers. I don't love the triblade propeller thing. I'm doing it on this just as an experiment. I really prefer the biblades. I really, really, really wish that there was a 35mm biblade. That would, if there was, I would have already done the Meteor 65 Pro thing to death. An 802 is a big enough motor for the tri-blades. This guy has 603s on it, which I think are a big enough motor for the tri-blades. 702s don't love tri-blades. They really love the biblades. Definitely let us know how it is. I might actually just do it. I think this build is going to have to come apart anyway, because it seems to have a weird problem. We noticed, somebody in chat noticed on Wednesday, where when I stab the throttle, the latency goes bananas. There's something weird going on here. So after I test this with a couple of different motors on this regular 65 setup, I will probably give this a rip on... I'll probably put this into that Meteor frame. And I might do 802s. I might do these 603s. But yeah, interesting. This is why live streams are the best. Because, you know, together we can figure out all these crazy combinations and try them all out. Brandon's Baked Bean says the wind tunnel ramps from 0 to Mach 1. Amarul says never seen a toothpick build on the channel. Good idea to build it with the 1102. 1102 would be a great motor for a toothpick. I flew toothpick builds kind of exclusively for my first year and a half of FPV 7 or 8 years ago, and I really burned it out. So I have not really revisited the toothpick thing. When Bob Ruge of FPV Cycle kind of came on the scene, he saw that I was doing a lot of micro stuff, and messaged me, and I spent days just dumping everything that I knew about micros onto him. And that's where, and he's the one that came up with the name toothpick and really popularized like that formula of build. By the time that he'd done that, I was done. I'd spent so much time flying that style of rig, big propellers, super, super, super lightweight, canopy in the middle, motors in view, that kind of thing, right? I was just sort of done with that. I'd moved on to 5-inch rigs and 3-inch setups that have the camera up front where there's barely any prop in view, for like a more cinematic kind of flight style. But also rigs that are heavier, like a lower disc loading ratio where there's more weight and less prop. That's how you get more throw off throttle. Toothpicks, when you come off throttle and invert them, they for the most part stop and fall straight down. Obviously not exactly, but and that is and so once I started to build heavier, more durable rigs, and I was able to get that throw like what we get with 5-inch rigs, it opened up a whole new like kind of world of flying and different tricks and different camera moves and stuff like that, and I really fell in love with that. And I've gone back and flown toothpicks every so often. I even have a naked DJI digital toothpick that I've flown like twice. And yeah, every time that I fly them, I'm just left kind of wanting more. I'm left wanting more momentum when I come off the throttle. And so that's kind of why you don't really see toothpicks on this channel. All that being said, they're a great rig to fly out in front of your house if you have neighbors that are jerks. I do not. My neighbors are super cool, and I don't really fly out in front of the house all that often. So when I do, I can fly Cinewhoops, I can fly the 3-inch 250 gram builds, and all as well. If you talk to your neighbors and you just have neighbors that kind of aren't assholes, you can get away with making a little bit of noise. Unless you're going to be doing it like every day, right? I don't fly every single day like I don't fly 10 batteries a day outside every single day like I used to. If you're going to be flying like that every single day, yeah, even if your neighbors are cool, they're going to get sick of hearing something like this, because these make noise. Toothpicks do not. Toothpicks are the perfect solution for don't bother anyone else, totally safe, and put tons of batteries in and get tons of stick time. So toothpicks are great, and I absolutely love them. It's just they're not for me anymore. And I always feel horrible saying that, which is why I over-explain it. But yeah, it's just every time I fly a toothpick, I jump off the throttle and it stops moving forward, and I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. And I'm just left like wanting more. So yeah. Stephen Woodruff says, sets Tiny Whoop in front of saucepan. Do your magic. What's that mean? Why was that, were we talking about them falling in the water? Maybe? Nick Burns says, what about a 100% alcohol rinse, or is that just for saltwater crashes? I've tried the alcohol rinse thing before. It seemed to work. At some point I got lazy and just put a rig in front of a fan for 24 hours and it was fine. And then it happened again. I did it again. And it was fine. And it did it again. So like the whole put the rig in front of a fan thing, it's just so easy. And it just, I've had 100% success rate with it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to overcomplicate it. If you're like out though and you don't have access to a fan, yeah, for sure. And you can snag a bottle, like if you're on your way home or something like that and you can snag a bottle of 100% alcohol. Yeah. The long and short of that is if you dump alcohol, if your rig is wet and then you dump the alcohol all over it, the alcohol will chase the water out. It'll like push the water out and then the alcohol will evaporate and it'll end up being dry. So yeah, that should absolutely work. But the fan thing is just so easy, and I've just had such good success with it. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna do that every time, and it just keeps working. But yeah, the big thing is just to, even if you don't have a fan, even if you just put it down, just don't plug it back in. The big thing is just to pull power as quickly as you can, and then just don't plug it back in until you're certain that it's dry. So if you're just gonna put it on your desk and you don't own a fan, give it like 3 or 4 days, I guess. And away you go. Yo, chat is... I'm super backed up on Chad. Hold on. Here we go. Chase with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, thanks for all you do for us. I appreciate your time and info. I appreciate you appreciating me. Martin Upshot says, so you say length matters most. Stephen Woodruff says, enamel-coated wire works as well as long as it's the correct length. Correct. Christ, you can even use motor wire. You can use, like, we're talking about replacing your ceramic tower antennas. You can technically use multi-strand motor wire, and it will work fine. It doesn't work as good as single-strand wire, but in a pinch, yeah, any old piece of wire cut to roughly the right length, it's going to work. It's kind of magic. Christ, Happy Model used to have an AIO that used a piece of motor wire for the antenna. It was like multi-stranded wire. It's like, what the hell is going on here? But it worked. It worked completely fine. These are back in the FR Sky days. Denzel the Terrible says, show us again with your hands how the prop shaft protrudes. No. Nick Burns says, 100% on HQ props. I can't seem to get Zong to mold the shafts through. I also wish the bottom of the prop had a cup to go over the top clip and sit flush with the top of the motor. That's a awesome idea. I never thought about that. The bottom of the GemFan prop does have a little bit of a conical thing, but it's not big enough to get all the way flat down. Although now that I say that, I actually would not like that, because from a durability standpoint, yes, it would be great to be able to push the prop all the way down against the bell. But from a getting the propeller off someday perspective, that would suck, because there would be no gap. This is the top of the bell. This is the bottom of the propeller. If you got them completely flat like that, boy, would it be hard to get the prop puller in there, and you would like really kind of chew up the plastic of the propeller, and you'd probably mangle the top of the bell. So yeah, I'm actually yeah, I like that. So on the top of the bell, there's a C-clip that sits here, which is what Nick's talking about, and then there's the motor shaft. That C-clip is to make sure that the motor shaft doesn't fall down through the bell. And so we push the propeller all the way down, and it bottoms out on the C-clip, and it leaves this tiny little gap here, and that gap is really nice for being able to remove that propeller someday. But like Nick said, if they wallowed out the bottom of the propeller so it would go over the C-clip, it would sit completely flat against the bell, and that would just even further reduce the amount of leverage in crashes. So you would gain a little bit of durability, but you would lose your sanity trying to get the propellers off of the motors, which is a real thing. Like the Tiny Whoop propellers, they get banged up, and it really helps to replace them like once a month, once every other month. And so taking the props off and on is a real thing. And the way that I used to remove Tiny Whoop propellers, and I still do, is with my left thumb and forefinger, I will pinch the bell, just the bell, right? And then you grab the prop with your other hand and you twist them. The problem with this is when you twist them like that, it puts a bunch of stress on the motor shaft and the motor bell. And what can happen over time is that from that twisting, you basically just ruin the connection between the motor shaft and the bell, and then the shaft starts spinning on the bell, and now that motor is worthless. So there's a little back and forth in terms of like gaining durability from not bending the motor shaft, but then how hard is it to pull the motor off? At this point, if you can get your hands on one of these, this is the prop popper from tinywhoop.com. This is the way to pull propellers without damaging the motor at all. You're going to scrape the bell of the motor a little bit with this, but that's just cosmetic. But yeah, this will pull a propeller off of a motor in a way that does not affect the motor negatively at all, because of the way that it has this little plunger that pushes down on the motor shaft while pulling up on the propeller. It's not wearing the connection between the shaft and the bell, other than like the first second where you're wedging this under the to get it, because you got to push it in a little bit to get the plunger to line up. But yeah, this is the least damaging way to pull Tiny Whoop propellers. So if you can ever catch these in stock, get one for sure and start using it. You will stop ruining motors by changing propellers. P. Richard Scott's in the house. He says, Nick Burns, CiottiFPV has found the magic whoop, the perfect build. He's done. Game over. LOL. We're going to fly it in a little bit. I call it the ultimate freestyle Tiny Whoop. Zach says, do you ever fly 85mm for a Jungle Gym basher? I do not. There are no 85mm frames that are durable. Also, I don't need the extra power. This Mobula 7 with a motor swap and BT 2.0 has all the power and efficiency that I need or want for jungle gym bashing duty. And it keeps the weight down. 85mm, it's going to get heavier and harder to shoot the gaps. And yeah, this is simple. It's easy. Off-the-shelf parts. Build a couple of them. Beat the hell out of them. Have a blast. 85mm is better suited for picking up like an HD camera, like an Insta360 Go or an O3 Air unit, stuff like that. But for analog, yeah, this is it right here. This is the ultimate jungle gym basher right here. And like I said, it's a Mobula 7 ELRS with iGao 802, 27,000 kV motors, GemFan biblades, and BT 2.0. And that's it. Super simple. I run mine a little bit lighter. I have one of these old school pieces of foam here, which adapts the bigger battery bay to accept the little 300 mAh batteries. I don't care about runtime. Just, buy more batteries. They're cheap. If anybody has, I only have this one. One of you beautiful bastards sent this to me. If anybody has any of these little foam pieces that used to like come free in our Tiny Whoop orders 4, 5, 6 years ago, I would love another one of these. Here's a closer detailed view of what it looks like. It weighs nothing because it's made out of foam and it works perfectly. It's such a simple little thing. And I have not seen these sold in many years, which is a shame. But yeah, if anybody has one of these floating around, I will absolutely buy it off you for way more than you paid. you probably got it for free. I'll definitely pay you more than free. I'm gonna butcher this. I apologize in advance. Biochi, I'm gonna pronounce it. Says went with Mobula 8 Walksnail in the beach. In the beach? At the beach. The ELRS range was very bad, near 200 meters, even with Radiomaster Boxer 1 watt and 25 hertz. Is it expected? No. ELRS range is usually like mind blowing. Check your antenna. Typically, when you have bad transmitter link range, it's either the antenna on the transmitter or the antenna on the quad. It's usually the transmitter, the antenna on the quad. Also, with the antenna on your transmitter, try to get the antenna up like this. If you have the antenna down like that, it's going to be very weak. Well, it depends on what antenna. This is actually an antenna that has a pretty round omnidirectional pattern to it. But if you have just like a regular whip style antenna, here you go. So if you're using like this built-in antenna here, and you've got it pointed like that at the quad, if you guys are the quad and I'm my antenna, this is going to give you the worst possible range. This is called a null out the end of the antenna. The performance is the worst possible. That has the best possible performance. So always try to have your antenna vertical like this. The strongest performance is out in this direction. And then it gets weaker and weaker and weaker as you go up and down. So yeah, if you were flying like this and you were pointing the ELRS antenna straight at the quad like that, that could be a part of the problem you were having. Get that. If you're using a linear antenna like this, make sure it's pointed vertically. And like understand that when you're flying, sometimes you'll like lean and shit like that. So if you have it pointed like this, but then halfway through the battery you're like this, that could be a part of the problem. So yeah, have somebody watch you fly and make fun of you. I mean, help you. 1B674H says, what AIO would you recommend for the ultimate build, excluding the F4 5 amp? It's out of stock everywhere. There is no replacement. That's the one. Buy a Mobula 6 ELRS. You'll get the good camera. You'll get the good canopy. You'll get a set of motors that you can maybe sell or pull the bells off of and use in the future. It is worth it. That AIO, the Happy Model F4 5 amp AIO, ELRS AIO, is the only one. I've tested all the other AIOs, and none of them can come even close to it. It's really annoying. Like, really, really annoying. But it's why they're sold out everywhere. So, yeah, buy a Mobula 6 ELRS at this point. It's well worth the $95 or whatever they cost to get that the AIO and camera and canopy. If you buy another AIO, it's either going to fail, and then you're going to have wasted that whole $50, $60, $70, or it's just not going to perform nearly as well, or it's going to be heavier, or yeah, the Happy Model AIO is worth buying an entire Mobula 6 ELRS. And the Mobula 6 ELRSs are in stock at a bunch of different places. I hate that that's the answer, but they will come back in stock if you can be patient. Freelojo says 802 33,000 kV for the BetaFPV Pro Walksnail. 65 or 75, Freelojo. 75, 33,000 kV is way too much. 65, very interesting idea. And that might be the combo that I do on this Freestyle Walksnail 65mm rig if I put it into the Pro. Not if, when. I am going to do it. I am going to put this into the Pro frame. But yeah, the new EX802 33,000 kV motors almost certainly are going to end up on this build because it's got the extra weight and it needs the extra grunt. But I'm enjoying flying them on the analog rig at the moment, especially to compare them to the Fireflies. So yeah. Morton Upshot says, I'm replacing the Superbee AIO for the second time in 6 months on Mobula 7, Walksnail ES3 on both, ESC3 on both. Should a 75 Snail with 1002 use 12 to 15 amp ESC? Nope. I have run 75 millimeter rigs on 1002s hard on the 5 amp Happy Model AIO, and it's been completely fine. And I've run a shitload of batteries through that setup. Amp numbers at this point with ESCs, we have the manufacturers have completely lost their minds, making the amp ratings really, 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 really high, and it sucks because they're spending more money on those higher amped FETs that we're never going to use the extra amperage that those FETs provide, and then they're doing a shittier job on the QC of the rest of the board, and then it's the rest of the board is what's failing. So yeah, I really hope the manufacturers get their heads out of their asses and start spending more time, money, and effort on the boards themselves rather than just stuffing higher and higher amp rated FETs on these things with amp ratings that we'll never get even remotely close to, right? Like a 15 amp ESC, a 15 amp Tiny Whoop ESC, that's 15 amps per channel. What the hell 1S or even 2S battery is going to pull 60 amps, right? Like, no. That's never going to happen. We would need a 10,000 million kV motor to do that. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, the 5 amp Happy Model boards will put up with 1002s, 23,500 kV, GemFan triblades all day long. It's magic. The Superbee AIO is known to be bad. It is a known bad ESC. Although I sent mine that I thought had blown up to someone, and they put Blue Jay 0.16 on it, and it brought it back to life. Might have been you, Morton. I forget. But yeah, if you did not have Blue Jay 0.16 on that AIO, if you had one of the newer versions of Blue Jay that we've found out don't work all that well, that might have been a part of the problem. If the person that put 0.16 Blue Jay on my Superbee that had it come back to life is in the chat, please let us know how many batteries you've put through it. Is it still alive? Nick Burns says, my neighbors can't hear any of my flights if they're inside, but all windows are closed. Yeah, Nick does a really, really cool thing with his neighbors. He got all of his neighbors' cell phone numbers, and he has a group text. And when he's going to fly, he sends out a mass text to everybody and says, hey, I'm going to be flying around, just so you know. That's the way to do it. That is really, really, really the way to do it. I should do that, but I just don't fly outside all that often. It's like a couple times a month, and usually it's during the day when they're all at work anyway. So yeah, it's not much of an issue for me. But yeah, Nick has the right way of doing it for sure. Talk to your neighbors. I know it sucks. I know you don't want to talk to anyone. I don't either. But yeah, say hi to your neighbors and say, hey, I have these silly little drones. I swear to God, I'm not going to spy on you. I have no interest in your life. Not to mention that I can't ever stop. If I stop, they look up in the sky. I have to keep moving forward. So I literally can't spy on you. Maybe don't bring up the spying thing. Although, god damn, people are insane when it comes to that. Like, everybody thinks that they're a celebrity and that the paparazzi are going to show up at their house tomorrow. Guess what? Nobody cares about you. And it's great that way. It is a nightmare when people care about you and they want to take pictures of you. Luckily, you're just Joe Blow living on Ding Dong Street. Appreciate the fact that nobody cares about you and live your life. Nobody wants to spy on you, especially not me. You're awful looking. That was mean. But I wasn't talking about anybody in specific, so it's okay. Kevin Sumner's, where are we at? Nobody wants to see you naked, I promise, neighbors. Holy Christ, I'm so far behind on chat. Really good questions, though. Thank you, guys. Kevin Sumner says, setting up a Crown or Meteor 65 frame in pusher configuration to help solve the forward-mounted camera question we've discussed on the past few live streams. What do you think about setting up a Crown or Meteor 65 frame in pusher to help solve the forward-mounted camera question? The problem continues to be the battery. Where's the battery going to go? And yeah, so like, and the problem we've been talking about recently is if I put the camera right here, the battery is going to push through, and it's going to be like all up on the camera, right? So with a battery in here, the camera then needs to go somewhere else. Technically, we could toilet tank it and run the battery left to right, but then, like we were talking about on the last stream, it's really hard to get the CG correct. It's damn near impossible to get the CG correct if you're going to toilet tank the battery sideways. And then if you crash, the battery's going to move, and that's going to wreck the CG. And CG on these little rigs is super, super, super important. So, yeah, I just don't know how we would do that. I think you would have to add some extra provisions on the bottom to bottom mount the battery, and now you're adding weight down here. I haven't figured out a way to do it. Spetzalicious, SPETZILICIOUS on Instagram. He does this, and I've talked to him in the past about it. He runs them in pusher configuration, and then he has a TPU set up to hang the battery from the bottom. And it's pretty cool, but then his camera is up here. I need to get the camera up front. That's what I talked to him about. I said, hey, any interest in trying to figure out a way with your setups to put the camera all the way up front so that we can have no ducts in view? And he didn't seem super interested in it, which, you know, nothing against him. The way that he builds his rigs is specific to the way he wants to build them. So some jackass gangly fella saying like, "Hey, build it differently," like I don't blame him at all for not being interested. Brent Anderson says, "Newbie question. I don't have goggles yet. Line of sight and liking it. New Whoop Vision 40 with Walksnail. How to record video? I'm thinking ports, modes, and start stop with a switch on a controller. Vision." Oh, interesting. So the Vision 40 is Rotor Riot's Walksnail 75mm Tiny Whoop. And what Brent is talking about doing is not using goggles, but just flying that thing around and just having it record on board, which it will do. I'm pretty sure that, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that out of the box, Walksnail is set up to record when you arm. So I think it'll do it out of the box, but here's going to be the problem with it, Brent. Flying line of sight, Quad Mover has done this a couple times. Flying line of sight with a camera on the quad recording, the what it actually records is worthless. Like, you fly so differently line of sight than you do FPV that yeah, just go to Quad Mover's channel here on YouTube. He's done it a couple times, and then he stopped doing it because, like, you'll go too fast and you'll point the camera down at the grass, and then you'll go too slow and you'll point the camera up at the sky, and there's no way for you to know like what the hell's happening because you're line of sighting it, and then you're gonna do like the yaw stuff, and the camera's gonna be looking up in the air. It's a very nauseating camera view that you've got. But technically speaking, I think that you can just buy that rig and just arm it, and it'll record on board. There's a chance though that you have to turn that on in the goggles. It is definitely a setting in the goggles that you can turn on or off. I don't remember if it's on by default, but I'm pretty sure that it is. I'm pretty sure that record on arm, I believe, is the setting in the goggles, is on by default. So I think you could buy that thing, and then you would just fly it, and then you'd plug into the VTX and pull the files off with the super annoying cable, and there should be files there. But they're not going to be files that you or anyone else wants to watch. You're going to watch them and be like, oh, shit. But go watch Quad Mover, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Line of sight with a camera on board, it just doesn't really work. It's such a different flight style. That's a really good question, though. Nick Burns says, yeah, proppers wouldn't work then. Kevin Sumner says, what about crenellations in the bottom of the prop hub to create the gap? Yeah, that would work. That would work. I mean, technically, you would only really need 2 little posts. And that would help 50% of the time with the... But I'll tell you what, pushing the propellers all the way down against the C-clip, does a hell of a job. I do not wreck many of these motors anymore, and the ones that I do wreck, man, did they deserve it. Like they've had probably thousands of crashes on them. Northern Tier says, have you tried the new Insta360 Go 3? I know it's heavier. I have not. They did not really like significantly improve the video quality, and it's heavier and it's way more expensive. So I have actually put I now have an eBay alert for Insta360 Go 2s. I'm looking for a cheap Insta360 Go 2 because eventually I'll lose or break this one. And yeah, I would rather have a Go 2 than a Go 3 because it's lighter weight. The video quality is all about the same. And yeah, I don't need that silly little box with the front-facing screen on it. So Insta360 Go 2 over the 3, in my opinion. Brandon's White Bean says, I make those out of cardstock and foam that comes in our FPV part packages to adapt thin sticks to thick sticks. Very cool. I didn't even... It's funny, like, we build these things, we build these crazy flying robots, and then I look at a piece of foam that's just, like... And I'm like, nah, I couldn't... My brain doesn't even consider, like, hey, dummy, cut pieces of foam out and glue them together, and you can make this in 5 minutes. It's funny how that works. It's funny how our brains work. Ethan W. says, CiottiFPV or anyone, do you know where I can get some M1.4 by 14 to 16 self-tapping screws? I've been looking on eBay and Amazon and haven't found any. I don't know about that specific size, but I've been able to find M1.2 by 12, I believe it is, on eBay. So keep looking on eBay, Ethan. I think that's your best bet. Upside says 4.211. Any ideas, CiottiFPV and all? 4.211. I don't know what that's referencing. Tell me more. I don't know what that means. Tag me again and tell me more. Brandon's Baked Bean says, the motors from the Mobula 6 19,000 kV 802 is the Underground Whoop League race spec, so they can be reused. Very cool. I didn't think about that. So yeah, there you go. Buy a Mobula 6. If you need the good AIO, buy a Mobula 6 ELRS and then sell the motors to somebody in the Underground Whoop League because they're gonna smash a bunch of them. Brandon's Beans also says, I have a brushed Whoop AIO with 12 amp ESCs, so it's been a thing for a while. No way. That's bananas. Brandon, I forgot to mention this before, but Brandon hits the nail right on the head. Manufacturers know that numbers sell 100%. That's why there's been this arms race with ESCs and the amp ratings. Because yeah, who would buy a 40 amp ESC when a 60 amp ESC is only $5 more? I would, because $5 is not the additional value of those 60 amp FETs. So probably that 40 amp ESC was manufactured better, and 40 amps is plenty for a 5-inch rig. Blah, 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 blah. Simon says, antenna repair done. Used a old little Happy Model 2.4 UFL T pulled from behind the T, and one of the T pulled out to reveal the perfect length. Cut it with a little for soldering 99. Yes. T antennas. Good call. T antennas have a half of it is ground and half of it is the active element. So if you pull a T antenna apart, you'll see the same thing. There'll be a grounded section that's usually black, and then there'll be like a silver section. That silver section is tuned to 2.4. You can cut that off. I didn't think about that. Good call. Unluckiest number says, should I just bind and fly and not mess with any settings with a Radiomaster pocket? For sure. When you buy anything like bind and fly, put it up in the air right away. Make sure that it works. Maybe you don't need to screw around with it and you can just focus on flying, which is awesome. So yeah, whenever you buy stuff, just resist the urge to go ballistic modifying it right out of the box and use it for a while. If nothing else, if you just use it for a while and then you upgrade it, you will actually get to see if those upgrades have helped or hurt. And you will appreciate those upgrades. If you buy something and you immediately upgrade, which is what I do all the time, you never get to see if those upgrades have helped or hurt, which is not great. So yeah, always fly stuff right out of the box. Also, if you pull it out of the box and you upgrade the shit out of it and it doesn't work, you're going to blame yourself. And you maybe rightly should be blaming yourself. So use it for a while and make sure that it's not broken as is. Because if it is, you can return it. But if you've upgraded the hell out of it, it's a lot harder to return it. Daniel1964 says, nothing against Jesse. He has everything come back in stock. However, I give up on the prop popper. Fantastic product, but availability sucks. Has nothing to do with Jesse. The availability of the prop popper and his motors and, frankly, most products has absolutely nothing to do with Jesse. Jesse tells Happy Model and the guy that makes the prop popper, I will pay whatever it takes, make as many of these as you possibly can, and send them to me as quick as you possibly can. So Jesse is on our side. He wants to, he makes more money by selling more of them. So yeah, it has nothing to do with him, and he's not manufacturing that stuff, right? Happy Model makes his motors. I forget the guy's name, but there's a guy that makes that prop popper. Jesse is not going to rip people off and just like start making the prop popper himself just so that he has stock for it. He has tons of respect for everybody else. He's such a great guy. And yeah, believe me, he would love to have all of these things in stock all the time, but it's out of his hands, unfortunately. Kevin Sumner says, I think Walksnail needs the goggles on for the VTX to do the recording, so line of sight with no goggles won't give you onboard DVR. That stinks. I have no... yeah, that's a shame. I think you might be right, though, Kevin, because it's a two-way link with Walksnail, just like with DJI. And, like, for example, when I push the record button on the goggles, the DVR starts recording. But I've turned off the auto start on mine because I want to save the I don't want the onboard DVR to record like the quad just sitting on the workbench and stuff like that. So I've changed that function. Upside says I'm mid new. That's I never heard it referred to as that. I like that though. Please find or show the video of the guy at the beach fitting through the big wheel. I don't know what that is. Please find or show the video of the guy at the beach fitting through the big wheel. Yeah, I have no idea what that is. I've not seen that video, so I wouldn't even know what to search for or who did it. Has anybody heard of that video? Freelojo says, you might try the Caddx Peanut. It's a go-to. Good call. The Caddx Peanut is a bigger, it's a bigger case. So I don't think it would work in the Tiny Lifter mount. But if I ever do lose or break this, I'll be desperate for anything. So yeah. Upside says as above, on and off. BetaFPV has a special RC thing to make their PCB SIO work, but still no gyro. SIO? I don't know the acronym SIO. Special RC thing to make their PCB SIO work, but still no gyro. I'm sorry, Upside. I am not picking up what you're laying down. I hate to tell you, I hate to do it, but you gotta. Oh, AIO. Okay. BetaFPV has a special RC thing to make their PCB AIO work, but still no gyro. Special RC thing to make their AIO work. I'm still stumped Upside says crossboard AIO. So I have a bunch of those BetaFPV cross AIOs, and there's no special RC thing. It's just plug it into USB to get it into Betaflight. Gyro is on board. There's, yeah, regular old like ELRS setup. Yeah, nothing special that I know about it. Upside says gyro not found. Gyro not found probably means that the gyro has failed, which is a very common thing, unfortunately. If you haven't put many batteries through that, contact whoever you bought it from and tell them that it says gyro not found, and hopefully they'll replace it for you. But yeah, if in Betaflight it says gyro not found, there's really no way to fix that. It's the fact that these gyros work at all for us is kind of amazing, because these rigs shake like crazy, and then we smash them into stuff and generate like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 G loads through them. So yeah, we're pretty lucky that these gyros withstand any amount of abuse. The fact that they withstand as much as they do is pretty impressive. Simon, only one side pulled out of the T. The needed side ground stayed in there by 99. I meant, on the OSD RSSI. Nice. Use the pad that you used in one of your videos, so no investigating needed. Thank you so much. You're certainly welcome, brother. Freelojo says, it fits that mount perfect. What fits what? Oh, the Peanut. Really? I thought the Peanut had a bigger case to it. Didn't they specifically say that they enlarged the case to make it more durable? I am caught up. Nope. Stephen Woodruff says, what is the best alternate frame for a Mobula 6, because the neon green frame doesn't match my style. My three favorite Mobula 6 65mm frames, in order of most favorite to least. Newbie Drone Cockroach 65 V3 is my current favorite. The Weebleed FPV Crown is my second favorite, and the old school Meteor 65 frame is actually my third favorite. The old school Meteor 65 frame you can get in a bunch of they might be out of stock. Jesse from Tiny Whoop has been dyeing those OG Meteor 65 frames, and you can get some really cool colors if they're in stock. Last time I checked, there was only like a couple of colors in stock, but there you go. Those are my three favorite frames. Really quick. I've borrowed that from Mighty Car Mods. If you even remotely like cars at all, or just good YouTube channels, go subscribe to them. Mighty Car Mods. It's the best car channel on YouTube. A couple of awesome guys. This is a box from Bob Noxious with some really cool stuff in it that are going to be showing up in some giveaways coming up. Good lord, dude. You made a shitload of these. Bob Noxious has been going down the 3D printing rabbit hole recently. And he has made a bunch of these TPU boxes for holding things. I don't even know that he made this one. This one says right on the front, 18650 box. And it's got slots for 18650s. I don't, I have a couple of 18650s. Yeah, so I can use one of these. But I don't really have many things that use 18650s, weirdly. I've always kind of stayed away from them. So one of these 18650 boxes will definitely be in an upcoming giveaway. And then we've got, oh, that's cool. We've got CiottiFPV on the front of this one. This is a taller box. I think this is for, oh, cool. He wrote on the bottom what they're for. Newbie Drone 300 mAh, this one says. Oh my God, that's gonna hold a lot of batteries. Look at that. Oh, Jesus. Nice, dude. Very, very cool. Nice. This fits tight too, which is good because you don't want the top to pop. Although I guess the batteries fit tight in there. Am I putting this on sideways? I'm probably putting it on sideways. Ah! There it is. I was putting it on sideways. Very, very cool. This one says the Gangly Gang on it. That's awesome. And this says 300 mAh. I wonder if is it the height that's different? I think maybe the height Yeah. The height is ever so slightly different. That's really cool. I dig that. Very specific for each different battery type. And then we've got... ooh, that's a coaster. We'll see CiottiFPV coaster. I like that. A TPU. And then... oh, nice. Bob Noxious has an awesome logo. There it is. Kind of out of focus, but... bunch of stickers with his logo. Loving that. Ooh, the oval. That's a good one. We've got a very cool little keychain. I'm going to hang that on my bag. And then there's 2 more of these guys in blue. Newbie Drone 300 and then Newbie Drone 300. Very, very cool. Thank you, dude. And that one says the Gangly Gang on the side there. Awesome. Coming to a giveaway near you, thanks to Bob Noxious. Everybody, get your asses over to... I mean, you should already be subscribed to his channel. He's putting out awesome edits flying around his spot. And, again, just a super cool guy. One of the longer-running folks in this community and a super valued human being and just a cool dude. Thank you, brother. Very cool. 18650 cases. That's rad. Oh, thank you, brother. All right. The Tiny Whoop Fleet. I'm going to charge through a bunch of this and not totally ignore the chat, but if you ask a question, it might not get answered for a minute because I'm going to roll over here and start ripping through these. Bob Noxious says, if the batteries are too swollen, they can be used for a tool tray as well. That's true. Yeah, you can drop tools down. That's a good call. If wanted, I can make those for you regularly. Right, 9 says 3 thumbs down. What did you do? I thought they removed the thumbs down on there. Bob, these'll last me for a while. When these run out, I'll definitely bug you. All right, cool. Let's dive into it. Well, I guess I can. Let's do this. I'll use this little close-up camera, and I'll stay here. So let's go from biggest to smallest. That's what she said. This is. Hold on. If I boost this camera up a little bit, it'll be a little better here. Yeah. I'm liking that. This is the heavier Tiny Lifter. The Tiny Lifter designation is because this is kind of too small for this heavy of a camera. And with, Cinelifters, the rigs are kind of underpowered. So this sort of flies like a little tiny Cinelifter, thus the name Tiny Lifter. I was about to start screaming. Sure would hope that the Logitech would focus, but it did, but now it's back out of focus. Whatever. Logitech is going to go in and out of focus. This is the heavier of the Tiny Lifters. Dry, with the 1102 18,000 kV motors, it is 34.85 grams. True RC Singularity antenna, because with it being like a more cinematic rig, I want as good of a quality video feed as possible and as much range as possible. Like I said, BetaFPV 1102 18,000 kV motors. These motors are too high of a kV. This is a rig for 2S, so it's got a little double BT 2.0 connector here. In order to pick up this much weight, you really need to go 2S. And I actually really like this setup because I can use the same batteries on these as with everything else. So I don't have to have like a separate set of batteries for the Tiny Lifters. I can just use these same amazing performing folded cell BT 2.0 Weebly batteries. This Tiny Lifter is great. These motors, like I said, 18,000 kV is way too high for 2S. So I have a motor limited down to like 80%, maybe 85%, and it's great. GemFan bi-blades, these motors have the 1.5mm motor shaft. The main complaint that I have about these BetaFPV 1102 motors is that whatever the hell the material that they used for the motor shaft, it's kind of weak, and these motors are not very durable. I've had much better luck with the next tiny lifter that I'm going to show you on RCN Power 1002 motors. But if you don't crash much, these motors are completely fine. I can't like recommend them though. These motors were the only things that we had available back when I was really working hard building these things. 1002s hadn't really come out yet, so this is kind of an older school tiny lifter. Newbie Drone Goober canopy with this Insta360 Go camera mount up on top here. You have to use this Goober canopy with it. And then this is a Newbie Drone Acro-B V3 AIO in here, which does not have Express LRS built in, but it does have this little plug header here where you can run your own receiver. And so I just have a little simple Happy Model EP3 hanging out in there with the ceramic antenna. Works really, really well. This thing is super fun, super quiet, super lightweight, incredibly maneuverable. This is the Newbie Drone Cockroach 75 frame, which I wish this frame was a little bit more durable. It's really funny that they took this frame design and they shrunk it down to 65, and it's hysterically durable here on 65. With this build, I'm asking an awful lot with it, right? I'm loading this thing down with a 26-gram camera, so when this crashes, it has a lot of weight behind it, which would kind of explain why I don't get a ton of crashes out of this frame. I try not to crash this thing, though, because the camera is like all willy-nilly up on top, kind of susceptible to being destroyed. But yeah, really cool little package. This is kind of absolutely as light as possible for carrying an Insta360 Go, and that was the point. I wanted a rig that was as quiet as possible, that I could just fly into impossibly small spaces, but take the awesome Insta360 Go along with it. The camera just kind of slides in to these little bunny ears up on top here. When you slide it in, it usually turns the camera on, but it would appear that the camera battery is dead. Sets up like that. Very, very, very top heavy. The flight characteristics of this are tough. This is difficult to fly, but it's a full-blown cinematic rig. Cinelifters kind of fly like shit, although not anymore, but they used to fly really bad. So again, this has OG Cinelifter. It's the OG Cinelifter experience, where it's difficult to just fly normally, let alone it's not something that you're gonna like rip. We are going to put it up in the air here with the camera off. I have put in the past, if you search my channel for Tiny Lifter, you'll be able to find some flight footage from this little guy through the Insta360 Go. I don't think I have any handy, but let's just fly it around and you'll really get to see how tough it is to kind of fly. Like, I'll just barely be able to limp it around the basement here without crashing it, and I probably will end up crashing it. I have tried the Newbie Drone Acro-B V4 on this setup, and for some reason, it doesn't like 2S. And I told Kelvin at Newbie Drone about it, and he was going to look at it, and then I didn't hear back, and I haven't really followed up since then. But yeah, the Acro-B V4, I tried 2 of them on here, and it just wouldn't work right. It wouldn't turtle mode back over. It was like lacking in power. It wasn't right. Look how loud that startup tone is on 2S. 2S is, I mean, the difference between 1S and 2S is kind of mind-blowing. Like, I guess that's pretty obvious, right? It's double the voltage, but like, man, when you actually when I moved, I initially tried to do these tiny lifters on 1S, and it was just brutal. And then when I moved it to 2S, it was so much better. It gained weight, and so there were other problems associated with it, but good lord, its ability to just fly and have some decent runtime was night and day once I went over to 2S. So yeah, if you're going to pick up this much weight, you're going to want to do it on 2S. So this is carrying the Insta360 II. Oh god. This is again on the BetaFPV 1102 18,000s on the GemFan 1.6 inch biblades. This is using the Goober canopy, which does not have an adjustable up tilt. I could technically start doing power loops and throw this thing through these gates, but it's just not, it doesn't crash well. So I'm not gonna do that. Wow. It's just heavy, man. Like, look at the, ready, watch it slide. It's got, it just, when you go to change directions, it just keeps going. It does not like to change directions. You gotta really push it. Luckily, the Insta360 Go 2, oh fuck, the Insta360 Go 2 has horizon leveling. So when you go into a corner and you lose the horizon as much as I just did, so here's the other issue, is turtle mode. With that much weight up top, it's really hard to turtle mode. And if the battery gets too low, it won't be able to turtle mode. You will also get some core temperature warnings. Again, we're asking a lot of this. It's like, look at the, at hover, look at the amp. Look how many amps it's pulling at hover. 5 point something. I saw 6 a second ago. 6, 7, just to hover. You know, this is, oh shit. This is really pushing the limits of this AIO, of just, you know, 75mm props. The runtime ain't too bad, though. We're about to get to 2 minutes. Battery is down at 3.48. Oh, God. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's hard to fly this, my friends. It is very difficult to fly this. But, man, can you get some cool video out of this thing? It just flew above my head and it like practically blew me away. These batteries are done. Get it on the ground. So 2 minutes and 20. Let's see what the batteries bounce back up to. They're back up to 3.6 already, 3.64, 3.65. Really quickly, let me look at what the motor limiting is set at. It's down here in rate. No, it's not. It's in miscellaneous PP. Where is it? It's on the next screen. Where the hell is it? Motor out limit 75%. Again, 18,000 kV 1102s on 2S. That's a lot. That is a lot. And it looks like the battery bounced back to 3.67. Not super bad. So yeah, you can get 2 minutes of runtime without wrecking the batteries. When you what's kind of nice is when you just need to unplug one battery, and now you can leave it like this. You know, this is no longer a complete circuit, which is good because this second battery is kind of hard to unplug. I love the way the batteries mount. It mounts them like very close to the center of gravity here. One battery goes in there, and then the other one goes on top. It just, they give you these 3D printed pieces that, and they give you these screws to screw down to this carbon fiber brace. This build is also very rough on motors because the motors are mounted to carbon fiber. But again, this is not a build that you're going to crash very often. And when you do crash it, you know, much like with a Cinelifter, you're going to kind of, you have to expect that something's going to blow up. Fully loaded, all up weight on this thing with the Insta360 Go 2, you are looking at, well, dry without the batteries, 61.2, with the batteries, 78.3. Hard to see that, but just take my word for it. So yeah, 78.3 grams, but the video quality out of the Insta360 Go 2 is phenomenal. It's only 2.7K, but like it looks great. It really, really, really does. I've seen 4K video that doesn't look as good as the 2.7K video out of this guy. So yeah, super impressive. The Insta360 Go software is great. It's got It's got horizon leveling, which is amazing, and yeah, it's just a great little camera. I'm constantly impressed by the Insta360 Go 2, and this is one hell of a cool little rig to pick it up with. This is the older school tiny lifter. This is the tiny lifter that I prefer. Same exact build, other than the motors. These are RC Power 1002 14,000 kV. Yep, 14,000 kV. The motors are a little bit lighter. The material that they make the motor shafts out of is a little bit stronger. And yeah, I mean, better. Like, there's nothing worse about this. I guess you could say that 1102 versus 1002, the 1102 motors have a bigger can and they're going to stay a little bit cooler. But when I fly this thing, it does not feel like these motors are overheating at all. Dry weight on this guy is 33.4 grams. And then with the camera and both batteries, you end up at 76.6 grams. When you think about the difference in weight between these two in like a percentage, it's not that big. So yeah, from like a weight perspective, there's not much of a difference, but the weight of the motors does matter. The motors are all the way out on the arms, and this rig does fly noticeably better. So if you're gonna do a tiny lifter build, there's no reason to not use these RC Power 1002 14,000 kV motors. Also, quite honestly, RC Power makes better motors than BetaFPV. So yeah, I trust these motors a little bit more. Plus this thing's fancy looking. You know, this looks more professional, I guess, all blacked out. But when you crash this thing, it's a lot easier to find because it's got some colors on it. So let's put a set of batteries through here. Riot9 says, is your video centered or is this OSD off screen? Can't see voltage, can't see shit. Yeah, the OSD for whatever reason through the computer is offset downwards a little bit. Stephen Woodruff says, what is the USB receiver you use for the video overlay? It is the eSheen ROTG1. If you go to Amazon, they don't sell it anymore though, but if you go to Amazon and you type in FPV VTX USB, you'll find them. There's a couple weirdo companies with random names that make them. Yeah, USB FPV VTX. Even though it's not a VTX, it's technically a VRX. Whoever is doing the item descriptions doesn't know the difference between VRX and VTX. 1002 tiny lifter. Here we go. And these aren't like fully optimized. Like I could reduce the weight a little bit more by shortening up the motor wires on these and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really fly these things all that often, if I'm completely honest. Like these tiny lifters were like a big, I spent a lot of time figuring these out. And then, I don't know, there just aren't many situations where I'm putting the Insta360 Go 2 up in the air. But when I do fly these things, I love it. It's really, really cool. One of my favorite edits of all time is me flying one of these things around a Japanese maple at Stone Mountain. And it's just so cool, man. Like the ability to get inside of a tree and weave in and out of the branches and the leaves and shit. Like that was a kind of magical thing that yeah, here it is. 68 gram, 1.6 inch tiny lifter is incredible. This was a really, really cool set of batteries that I flew. That is copyrighted music, so I'm not going to let it play, but I just dropped the link so you guys can watch it for yourselves. Yeah, the tiny lifter is neat. If you have an Insta360 Go 1 or 2 or 3, this is a really fun rig. It really, really is. It's super cool. And it's like, as you can probably hear if you've seen me fly around, it's louder. It's considerably louder than the rigs that aren't picking up Insta360 Go 2s. But it's still not loud enough that like you could fly this around a mall, you could fly this around a Target, you'd probably get kicked out, but like it's funny and it's little, and they're not going to kick you out in handcuffs. They're going to say like, hey, you can't. They're probably not even going to kick you out. They're just going to say, hey, you can't fly that in here, and you say, oh, okay, sorry, I didn't know, and then that's that. So yeah, here's the 1002 tiny lifter. Here we go. I don't think you'll see a difference in my ability to fly this thing more accurately. If I am flying this thing more accurately, it's probably because I just had 2 minutes and 20 seconds to practice on the other rig, in fairness. But I'll do a couple little full throttle stabs. See, plenty of power still. Again, it's not a freestyle rig, so you're not going to get like big power from it. But that's okay. It's a cinematic rig. Let it fly like a cinematic rig. Take it upstairs and whop it around a little bit. Why not? I should have done this with the other one, but... Hello, family! I hear the dog. He's outside. I mean, it's good enough that I can, like, get it up and down the stairs. It's remarkably hard to fly up and down that stairwell. It's, like, really tight. That's what she said. Oh, God. Oh! All right. In fairness, I did not plan that. But, hey. It was accurate enough to do it. Tune is good, as you can see, even with the Insta360 Go 2 on it. That's partly because of the carbon fiber brace on this frame. It does a really good job isolating the gyro from the motors and the prop vibrations. You've got analog video, so it's as hard to see where you're going as with any analog rig. I think this one gets a little bit better runtime too with these 1002s. It should. It's a smaller motor with a lighter bell. Oh God. Almost hit that cymbal stand there. Yeah, we're at 2 minutes already and the battery is still at 3.6. And remember that I flew this thing all the way up the stairs and I railed it around upstairs, which is going to eat more battery than flying down here. Let's see if I can get it under the coffee table. Yeah, we got that. Challenging to fly, but very cool. Like, imagine all of this flying that I've just done in 2.7K with horizon leveling. Like, that is the magic of the tiny lifter. The magic is the camera that it carries. See that? It just... See, the battery's getting kind of low. And I think the battery might actually be too low to turtle mode it. So this right here is the main problem with the tiny lifter. If you were flying this like up in the rafters of the mall and you got it stuck up there and the battery is low like this, you might not be able to get the damn thing back. So yeah, there's a little bit of risk there. So almost 3 minutes, and if I push forward on the pitch, 3.72. The battery has bounced back. Yeah, so wow, I didn't realize there was such a drastic difference in runtime between these motors. So if you're gonna do a tiny lifter, for sure get the RC and Power 1002 14,000s for that extra runtime. Those are the tiny lifters, my friend. Very, very cool builds. I don't necessarily know if I would run out and buy an Insta360 Go 2 to do one of these builds. It ends up being a really... like, the other reason, to be totally honest, that I don't fly this is that this is like a $500 build, I think. This is a $300 camera, if I remember correctly. And then the Newbie Drone Acro-B AIO is kind of expensive. And then the motors and everything else. This is probably not. This is probably closer to like a $400 build. But still, this is an expensive build. And I only have one of these, and I don't have the Geek Squad protection on it anymore. So, yeah, it's kind of like a high risk-ish build. So I just don't end up flying it all that often. But if there's a spot that... If there's a spot... Ooh, God. That is recoverable, like that Japanese maple that I flew this thing around, this is so much fun. Keep an eye on the propellers. You're asking a lot of thrust from this thing. Even though they are on the 1.5 millimeter motor shafts, the propellers can start to work their way up and out, so check those frequently. But other than that, yeah, the Tiny Lifter is a really cool build. It's just, yeah, the turtle mode thing is rough. And the turtle mode issue is because the camera is up so high. When this thing goes upside down, all that weight of the Insta360 Go is against the ground. So for it to turtle mode up, it has to like weight lift all of that. See that? It's got to pull all that Insta360 Go weight up and over. I have better luck flipping it over like this and then using the momentum. But when it's really having a hard time, I pull it sideways. I do a sideways little thing, and sometimes it'll roll back over. But as you could see, I couldn't do it. I was trying it in all four directions a minute ago, and it just kind of wouldn't go. So yeah, these motors at 14,000 kV are at 100% throttle output. So it's not like I can just make more power from the motor. So that's the only thing to be careful of with the Tiny Lifters is the when the batteries get low, it's much more difficult, sometimes impossible, to turtle mode back over. So like when you start to get towards the end of the battery, stop doing sketchy shit. Like just relax for the last minute of flight, and don't crash the damn thing is the easiest way to solve that problem. Just don't crash. That's the solution to all the things. Just don't crash. Build the most fragile rig ever, but then just don't crash. That's 90% of the advice that you'll get on Facebook when it comes to FPV. Riot9 says, bless you, you're so good looking. Upside says, are your builds don't power via battery or Betaflight? So what's the other route? Sorry, in a mode. Cheers. After you build, don't power via battery or Betaflight. When I get finished with a build, the first thing I do is plug it into Betaflight with USB. There's no other route. And then if all looks well, then I'll power it up with a battery. Hopefully that answers your question. I hope. Okay, we're gonna stay with 75 millimeter rigs, and we're going to check the next, and we're gonna go from heaviest to lightest. So next heaviest rig is the one that we've been screwing around with lately. It is the carbon fiber framed Walksnail build, which if you were here on Whoop Wednesday, I did a bunch of talking about this and let you know that I'm actually going to tear this apart and put it into a 65 millimeter frame. I don't know what this is good for. The biggest bummer about this is that there is duct in view. The whole point of these carbon fiber frames is to get the camera up front so that there's no props or ducts in view. But unfortunately, yeah, with this Walksnail light camera, the field of view is wide enough that you see the ducts on the left and right. And you see the ducts, like, I'm going to imitate the ducts with my fingers here for you. The ducts show up like all the way up here, which is like a bad spot for them. I would rather have the ducts be on the bottom where you're not really looking much. Like if I had this same build in a freestyle setup, like just, like a normal rig with the camera up on top, and there was a little bit of duct in view on the bottom of the frame, which I'm simulating with my fingers, and it like didn't really matter because you don't look at the bottom all that often. You do look at the top on the sides here. So it's like it's much more obnoxious with where the ducts are showing up here. The good thing about this build is the runtime. If you're going to do a carbon fiber framed build and try to get ducts not in view, but they are going to... So I guess if you run a different camera on here with with less field of view, then there wouldn't be ducts in view. The advantage of this carbon fiber 75 versus the 65 is absolutely runtime. This thing gets almost exactly 2 minutes on the nose. This guy gets almost 3 minutes. You have to run a 450 mAh battery in order to do that, but I mean, that's kind of the point. This, for chasing the little RC drift cars, it's just way too heavy. This little 65 mil version is absolute king. This thing feels fat and slow and sluggish, chasing the little RC drift cars, and that's kind of what I was building this for. I always find it necessary to try 75 millimeter builds with every different like setting that I'm building these things to perform in. So that's what this was, and yeah, it doesn't do anything all that well. So I'm not impressed enough with this to, man, Logitech, you are just useless today. Just worthless. Yeah, it just it doesn't do anything better. I can't figure out what... If there weren't ducts in view, I would maybe leave this together as like an outdoor Walksnail rig. But yeah, with the ducts in view, I'm just going to take it apart. It just doesn't make any sense. I would rather have this build... I could put this build into a regular old plastic frame, and it would be lighter. It would be more durable on the motors, because during crashes, the motors would be able to move with the frame. And it would make more thrust because there would be less obstructions below the motors. And I would have ducts in view on the bottom, which I would rather have. So yeah, this doesn't really make much sense to me, unless you're going to magically find a camera that has less field of view. Or not run ducts on it, but that's kind of silly. This has the iGao 802 27,000 kV motors. I was not impressed. I really thought that this would have better power to weight ratio with these motors. I love these motors on the analog setup you're going to see in a minute. But yeah, we'll put this up in the air in a second here. And yeah, I don't know. I also flew this on the stream with these Flywoo 1002 23,500 kV motors. These are the highest kV 1002s that have plugs on them. And it was really no better. It was kind of exactly the same, other than that these motors are heavier, so the all-up weight went up. I prefer it lighter with these iGao motors. If you were going to build this and fly it fast using a lot of throttle, you would want these 1002 motors. The 1002 motors have the bigger can, so it's a bigger heat sink, so they're going to stay cooler. These 802s picking up all this weight are really doing a lot of work. And yeah, if you're going to fly this thing fast, you have the potential for these motors to get too hot, and then any efficiency that you gain from them being lighter motors goes out the window. So, yeah. Damon says, can we get a new desk camera fund going? LOL. I have tried many desk cameras, and this is arguably one of the best. Logitech, their autofocus algorithm is just useless. It's really embarrassing. But yeah, it's hard to find a small little desk camera that is... I need the camera to be small so it's not in the way. Most of these, the better quality little cameras like these, they get a lot bigger, and then when I have this like sitting on the desk where I'm trying to work in front of it, it's a nightmare for the camera to be bigger. So yeah, this is the best that I've found. Send Logitech an email and say, for the love of God, fix your goddamn autofocus algorithm. They could update they could do like a firmware release on the software and fix the autofocus on this, but they seem to choose not to. This will actually make it better. I just noticed that I did not have this light where it should be. All up weight on this rig, well, not all up weight, dry weight on this build is 33.5 grams. And then with the folded cell 450, it goes to 45.8, call it 46 grams. So 46 grams all up weight. Let's fly it real quick. We are going to do all 3 of the Walksnail rigs in a row because I have to change a couple things to fly them. So let's do that now. You know what? No, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. We'll bounce back and forth. I'd rather have this be a little bit more organized from fattest to lightest. Walksnail V1 goggles. Where are you? There we are. Let's get these guys plugged in. And all right, there's that. Power these guys up. Okay. Now I need to switch modules because this is on ELRS 3.0, not 2.5. And all right, cool. So let's go here, and we're gonna turn off VRX and turn on. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. So this is a 450 milliamp folded cell 1S battery. And just trying to get the battery into the silly little TPU loops that hold it. They do work though, I will admit. Give me a second here. I gotta try to get the camera sitting somewhat straight. The camera mounting setup on these carbon fiber frames is really rough. Like you see the ducts, like you can move the camera just moves around all on its own. So you gotta like sit here and try to get it centered, and then every time you swap batteries, what the hell just happened? Every time you swap batteries, you have to recenter the camera. It's a little tough. All right, here we go. So I'm actually going to keep a little bit of an eye on the latency when I move the throttle up and down. Yeah, see, it doesn't change. The other rig that we finished up the other night. Now we'll talk about that in a second. I have this set at 0 up tilt, which is why I'm flying very slowly. I do that for chasing the little RC drift cars, so that I can fly backwards a little bit more easily. I can't let my my phone just sit here and scream at me. It'll drive me mad. All right. So yeah, that's why the flying looks a little bit different. On the tiny lifters, like I said, they've got the goober canopy on them, which has like a baked in like 15 to 20 degrees of up tilt, which is kind of cool. I really like flying this at the low up tilt. It's a very different kind of thing. You get to like look down. Like look at that. I'm barely, in order to look down like this with up tilt, I gotta like throw it up over the thing and go screaming down. This I can like really controlled. I can have a lot of control when I'm dropping altitude like that, which is really, really cool. Azalea running around. What's she up to? What's she up to? Let's get back in the basement here. Come on. Come on down the stairs, little fella. This thing tuned up pretty decent. There is a little bit of prop wash when you get it into its own garbage air, but it's not too bad, and there's no real bounce back to speak of. So it does tune up well. The runtime is not nearly as good as I thought it was going to be, but that makes sense. The carbon fiber frame adds a bunch more obstruction to the airflow, to the thrust, and that kind of kills efficiency. You know, you've got almost the same amount of plastic from a plastic frame, but then you've also got the carbon, so you're adding weight there as well. Oh, shit. Oh, boy. Hold on. Might be good. Nope. Some of the couple of the props are blocked. Chill out. There we go. Don't fall off the desk. Normally this thing does turtle mode okay. It's not the best, mainly because of how low profile this thing is. I'll show you in a second. So turtle mode is a little bit of a challenge. But as long as you run a true RC antenna, it's not that bad. Could definitely be better, though. And we're getting low on the battery here, 3.49, 3.5. So with these Walksnail rigs, you cannot run the battery down super low. It will shut the VTX off, and I'm kind of there. I'm at 3.47. We can get a little bit more out of here. But when you're flying a Walksnail rig and the battery gets to 3.5, bring your ass home. I'm doing this right now just to try to squeeze out any extra runtime that I can. There's 3 minutes and 10. So I'm going to bring it in here. Looks like the minimum battery was 3.4. I think if you hit 3.3, it'll brown out. You can see the battery is bouncing back to 3.64. That's probably where it's going to stay. So, yeah, I mean, we ran this battery all the way down. Bouncing back to 3.65, like, that, you ran that battery a little bit too low. I like these batteries to bounce back to 3.8, ideally. In terms of turtle moding, the problem is that the props sit very high here. Like, if you look at it at an angle there, see how high the props are kind of sitting? So when it flips upside down, those props are really close to the ground. Having a true RC antenna definitely helps to give it this little buffer here so that it sits up on the true RC antenna. Without this true RC antenna, you can't turtle mode this. The props are so close to the ground, they rub against the carpet and they just won't spin. So yeah, I don't know who this rig is right for. I would so much rather just have this be a regular old freestyle-ish standard Tiny Whoop style rig. I with the ducts in view, this build is sort of out the window. That's just my personal opinion. I would love to keep this together because I have probably 10 plus hours into this build, but this is an example of a rig that I would never fly because I can't find a single scenario where this makes more sense than a version of this build that makes more power, more efficiency, all the things that we've been talking about. So yeah, I'm a little saddened by this because I really thought this was going to be good for like some jungle gym bashing and some other things. But yeah, I can't figure it out. I can't figure out a good use for this. So it's going to get pulled apart, and basically I'm just going to turn this into another one of the 65mm versions, which is awesome for chasing little RC drift cars. So yeah, the center of this rig will live to see another day. The frame will go away. The motors will go onto a Jungle Gym Basher build. So yeah, this was disappointing. I had high hopes, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna leave it put together for a little bit longer and just keep thinking about it and keep thinking about what this might do well. But I don't want to have to think this hard about that. Like a rig should tell me like what it does really well, and then I'll use it for that. And this one is just not doing that, unfortunately. So continuing with the carbon fiber framed Walksnail theme. This is the exact same thing, but in a 65. Check this out. This thing is awesome. All of the Walksnail flight footage that you've seen with no ducts in view has been from this. This has Weebleed FPV 0702 32,500 kV screamer motors on it. And then it's the exact same build. BetaFPV Cross AIO, Walksnail Light. This uses the crown ducts, which I have actually mounted to the bottom of the carbon fiber frame. What's cool about that is it brings the duct down perfectly in line with the propeller. The Meteor 65 frames and the crown frame have the duct line way too high, and the propellers, instead of rubbing the inside of the duct, they hit these supports, which is really bad. So yeah, being able to mount these to the bottom of this carbon really seemed to help with my ability to like bump into the little RC drift cars and then bump right off of them and just kind of keep going, rather than bumping into them. The propeller slams into the vertical support and stalls out, and it just falls out of the air. So yeah, this thing, man, this is this is dialed. I'm very happy with this rig. For chasing the little drift cars, this thing is just wild. The quality that you get, I've been putting the why did that happen? All right, so this has the camera dialed in for the light temperature and just in general the lighting situation at the drift car place. This goggle battery's going dead. Can you? I'm sure you guys can hear that. Maybe you guys can't hear that. Let's just do it. Oh fuck! I got the wrong module in. All right, hold on. I have the wrong module in, and the goggle battery is going dead. So let's pull power from this thing. And I gotta change the module, and I might as well grab another goggle battery while I'm at it, because you guys could probably hear that. JScars1120 says, today I took my first ever FPV flights on my Meteor 75 Pro. Holy shit, I'm hooked. Glad I put in simulator time to get prepared. Thanks for your great info and inspiration. Whoop life. You're certainly welcome, my friend. Enjoy it. FPV is magic if you're willing to be stubborn enough to get through all of the technical horse shit. It is worth it for sure, though. All right, fresh battery going on these Walksnail V1 goggles. Let's get this balance lead the hell out of the way. Power these guys up. And there we go. All right, cool. ERX should have video in a second. No, we shouldn't. I haven't plugged the quad in. Oh, maybe I can do it blind. Look at me go. I did it. Yeah, check this little thing out, man. This is so awesome. If you're gonna chase something little, or even if you just want something to like shoot the tiniest little gaps with no ducts in view, this thing is it. A couple full throttle blasts. Not super impressive from a power to weight standpoint, but it's not about that. This rig is about getting into tiny little spaces and having total control. Oh boy. What? Where is it? What? Oh. Decorations. So yeah, the white balance is wrong in here, but that's okay. It's right in the one place where I fly this and where I built it to really perform well. This is all about finding it. See that? It bumped right off that thing and just kept going. Find those little gaps and get through them. That's what this thing does, man. With no ducts in view. Ah! The extra weight is definitely there. It's nowhere near as good at shooting tight little gaps as like a more freestyle rig. But no ducts in view and Walksnail. You see it bumped off that again and it was fine. It turtle modes pretty well, usually. I think there's something, I think it's hitting on, oh great, oh fuck you. Inside my hi-hat pedal. There we go, we got out. Biggest problem with this rig is runtime. Look at the runtime right now and we're already at 3.4 volts. And now it's gonna brown the, yeah, that's it. Like when you hit 3.4 like that, you're coming home. Minute and 43, I get 2 minutes chasing the little RC drift cars because I'm not bouncing the throttle up and down. You can see the battery is bouncing back to 3.65, which is fine. It's just, you can't run the battery super low on this or you'll lose video. And then the video doesn't come back. Like you lose video and then that's it. You got to go hunt for the rig. So yeah, runtime limited for sure. Power to weight ratio limited for sure. This is not a freestyle rig. This is a cinematic 65mm rig. And for those, like, this would be dope to fly around like the mall, fly around like a department store. This is as light and as quiet and as toy-like as it's going to get, right? Like, security guard comes up to you and he tells you to stop flying, you show him this, he's going to laugh and smile and it all is right with the world. This is a really, really, really cool build. I'm absolutely in love with this for chasing the RC drift cars. I think I'm going to be able to make something even better than this, though, so stay tuned. Quad 66 and I are working on some stuff. Yeah, at the moment, though, this is about as good as it gets, but I'm pretty sure that we can make something significantly better, getting away from the carbon fiber frame and all the problems that causes, right? Efficiency, less thrust, harder on the motors, all that good stuff. So stay tuned. But man, for right now, I'm so happy with this. I'm really loving flying this around the drift car place, chasing the little RC cars. Last Walksnail rig is the one that we just finished up the other night that's having some weird problems. This is the more freestyle type of a Walksnail build. It's just a regular old tiny whoop with an extra layer, which is the Walksnail VTX rather. Now the fucking transmitter battery is going dead. Are you kidding me? Come on now. Shut up! Stop telling me your battery's low. Tell me once, and then no, it's a bad idea. So yeah, this is basically a ultimate freestyle tiny whoop, but with oh, I forgot about this little guy. But with the Walksnail setup in there, even down to the canopy. It's a regular old Mobula 6 canopy, which is kind of cool. Move this light in a little bit closer here. Yeah, you got to modify the Mobula 6 canopy a little bit because this lens is bigger. But you just go in there with a file. It's no big deal. Remove a little bit of material, and then you'll be good to go. Pretty straightforward build, really. BetaFPV, all of these Walksnail builds use the BetaFPV Cross AIO, except for this one. This one is using the new Happy Model Cross AIO, and I don't recommend the Happy Model Cross AIO. The USB port on the Happy Model AIO is much longer, and for all frames other than this Meteor 65, it gets in the way of the batteries, which is a total deal breaker. So don't use this Happy Model AIO. There's a chance that this AIO is why I'm having the weird situation with this, but I don't think so. We'll look at that in a second. This has a set of prototype 0603 30,000 kV motors on it, and then the GemFan 1208 tri-blades. Other than that, yeah, there's a True RC Singularity antenna tucked up inside the Mobula canopy, like I like to do. Yeah. All up weight is basically 6 grams heavier than our freestyle tiny whoops. Dry weight is 27 right on the nose with a battery 35.4. Interesting little rig. I had this thing built previously, and I liked it a lot better than where this one currently is. But, you know, new build problems. They're always a little bit unruly at first. 3.78. That battery's dead. This battery's fresh. All right, last of the Walksnail rigs that we're going to fly. And yeah, this one just needs a little bit of troubleshooting and a little bit of development. But I'll give you some idea of how it flies. Again, these 603s are 30,000 kV, and then we have the GemFan 1208 propellers on them. And I think I need to change the module again. Yep. All right, let's do that. And with these Walksnail rigs on the Walksnail light setups, you got to be really careful. They overheat incredibly fast. So get them up in the air as quick as you can. So a couple of full throttle blasts here to give you an idea of the power to rate ratio. Still not a very good power to weight ratio, even on these really interesting 603 motors. It's not doing the weird, crazy latency thing that it was on Wednesday. Yep, yeah it is. Well, the battery is just sagging to hell. Those horizontal lines are the last thing you see before the Walksnail VTX browns out. I beat these motors up pretty good. Yeah, this thing is having issues. Yeah, no. This rig needs some love. There's something going on. It's got a vibration problem that's causing the PID loop to go bananas and eat the whole battery. There's something weird going on there. But yeah, I give you a little bit of flight there. It'll make a little bit more power when I figure out what the hell's going on with it. But not that much extra power, to be really honest. So it'll definitely get more runtime though. And this is the fucking PT 2.0 lead. It won't come unplugged. God damn it. Yeah, this is usually a really good build. When I had it put together previously, it was really, really fun. Either this cross AIO is a problem, or these motors are too beat up. I beat the shit out of these motors on the Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoops, and they're a little bit noisy and a little bit vibey. So first thing I'll do is swap the motors out. We'll probably do this maybe tomorrow night, maybe this coming Whoop Wednesday. We'll get these motors off of here, put the EX 802 33,000 kV motors on it. Those would really be the best motors for this platform. If the problem goes away, then the issue was these motors are just whooped and just destroyed. If the problem doesn't go away, then the Happy Model Cross AIO has got to go. I would kind of prefer that to be the problem, because the fact that the USB port is longer than the BetaFPV Cross AIO, it's just stupid. There's just no reason for that. It forces you to only run it in the Meteor 65 frame, and I would rather run this in the Cockroach V3 frame. So, yeah. Hopefully the AIO is the problem so that I can get this AIO the hell out of here and put another BetaFPV Cross into this rig. Yeah, kind of disappointing. Happy Model can only make one AIO properly. It's kind of insane. But, hey, at least they make that one really good AIO. This is a really fun build. For freestyle stuff, this is fun. It is underpowered for freestyle stuff, but as I showed you on Whoop Wednesday, you can still do power loops, Matty flips. They're just a little bit more challenging, and it does feel fat. My other big concern with this rig is the camera hanging out like that. There is, if you hit it just right like this, the camera will be the first thing to hit, and that's going to be tough on that. So not a super durable freestyle rig, but good lord, is this an interesting freestyle rig because of the quality of the video that's coming out of it. The good AIO from Happy Model is the regular old 5 amp F4 ELRS Mobula 6 AIO. When you buy a Mobula 6 ELRS, it's the AIO that comes in that. It doesn't have a fancy name. It's just called like the Happy Model F4 5 amp. It's impossible to find in stock because lots of people have figured out that it's amazing. Right now, it's not in stock anywhere, but I think it's worth it to buy an entire Mobula 6 ELRS just to get the damn thing. Because when you buy a Mobula 6 ELRS, you get the best canopy and camera setup as well. The motors that you get are, as Brandon's Baked Beans pointed out, they're the motors that Underground Whoop League is running. So you can probably sell those motors it comes with to those guys and then buy a good set of like high KV Tiny Whoop 702s. So, yeah. That's the last of the Walksnail rigs. Let's put this back to analog. And, all right, now we're going to go back to heavier rigs. So we're going to go back to 75 millimeter. And so next up are going to be the Jungle Gym bashers. And I'm going to give you my favorite first, which, let go. Let go. Let go. Which is this little fella. I don't love this this 3D printed canopy, but I was kind of playing around with it, and I haven't flown this thing in a while. But this is a Mobula 7 ELRS with BT 2.0 and a motor swap. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to change the camera. You don't need to use this 3D printed camera mount. Run it on the regular. I actually prefer it on the regular old. It's not going to be clear. It's going to be smoke, but yeah, the regular Mobula 6, Mobula 7 canopy with RunCam Nano 3, and you're going to get better results than this camera and canopy. This is just me testing and testing and testing. You can see this is one of the rigs that had the ceramic antenna break off, and I replaced it with this little piece of wire, which works better, is lighter, and is more durable. And then I just have a shitty little super lightweight VTX antenna on here as well. Yeah, the magic of the Mobula 7 ELRS 1S out of the box is not impressive at all. You put a BT 2.0 lead on it, and you move it over to these 802 27,000 kV iGao motors from Tiny Whoop, and it completely comes alive. You don't have to do this crazy thing with the little lightweight batteries, but I've done that to further keep this thing lightweight. Yeah, this is for bouncing all around on jungle gyms. This thing is magic. As it sits, 24.3 grams with the little 300 mAh battery, 32.7 grams. Mega power from these 27,000 kV motors on the GemFan 1.6 inch biblades. This thing is awesome. You can find jungle gyms all over the damn place. Nobody's going to complain about you flying this because it's just a stupid little kid's toy looking thing. It is so much fun. This build turns a jungle gym into like the best spot that you've ever flown. It's really, really, really cool because you've got a million little gaps to shoot. You've got dive gaps in like the monkey bars. It's so cool, man. It is so, so, so cool. All right, what's low battery? What are you bitching about? All right. Here we go. Little 300 mAh battery. Keep the weight down. So, for flying, here's what you don't want to do with this rig, is fly it indoors. It makes so much power that flying this thing in... Yeah, that's a lot of that. Flying this thing indoors is really challenging. This camera sucks. This is one of those Caddx Ant cameras. I don't know what people see in this camera. I can't see with this camera. Maybe it's better outside. Jesus Christ, yeah. So all of these 75 millimeter rigs are really challenging to fly inside because they have so much power and they're just significantly heavier than the 65 mil rigs. Like, it's just... You're not really flying inside per se. You're just kind of holding on for dear life, which is not, that's not what you want to do. You want to be able to actually fly. Yeah, you're gonna crash a lot. If you can only afford one rig and you want it to be indoor and outdoor, okay, I get it. But figure out if you're gonna fly inside or outside more often, and then build the appropriate rig for it. Yeah, this is... And I mean, I have this thing set up to be as light as possible, so it's got like the best possible chance of functioning inside. These little 300 mAh batteries get gobbled up pretty quick on this setup just because it makes so much power. But yeah, this battery should bounce back Nah, it's not bouncing back all that good. Wow, that was only 1:20. Without the little piece of foam, you can run the Weebleed 400s in this build and get that runtime back. Trying to make this thing work inside, I've just continued to reduce the weight. And so now we've like really sacrificed the runtime, and it still doesn't really work well inside. It's still too powerful and too heavy. So yeah, don't recommend this for inside, but man, for bouncing around the jungle gym, this is magic. It really, really, really is. Let me get caught up on chat a little bit. Damon says, what do you use to mount the Walksnail VTX? I'm having trouble finding grommets or something to put in to mount it on top of the AIO. Damon, here's what you want to do. What the fuck was that? Why did that happen? You're going to go to my channel here, and there's a little secret thing that not everybody knows about. There's a little magnifying glass on all channels right here. This is magic. This lets you search only the person's channel that you're on. So what you want to do is search for Walksnail. I have done a whole bunch of Walksnail builds where I have tackled that issue. You don't want to look, you want to look for the Walksnail builds where I'm putting them into plastic frames. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, this is the carbon fiber frame. This is a different mounting setup. Here's another one here. 5. Yeah. In each one of these live streams, there are going to be timestamps thanks to Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper and QuadBod. So you can come in here to the description and just read through. More motor testing, bashing, whoop out of parts, dog bowl crash. There you go. There's a dog bowl crash live. Motor clips. Working on the Walksnail build. Here you go. So an hour and 44 minutes in, I start working on the Walksnail build. Through working on these builds, I'm going to talk all about how to mount the Walksnail VTX. So spend a little bit of time. There's not like a one-size-fits-all solution. It depends on what frame you're using. It depends on a bunch of different stuff. And yeah, the best I can do is point you in that direction so you can listen to me talk through the different ways of mounting it. You can get grommets to fit. It's really hard, but you can absolutely get grommets to fit inside of the Walksnail VTX, and that really helps with spacing it out. And then the screws that you need to go down through it are into the frame are M1.2, and you really want to look for like M1.2 by 10 or even by 12 to be long enough. But again, watch a couple of those, use the timestamps, and I work my way all the way through it, and I show you a couple different ways of doing it. Admittedly, it's a pain in the ass. There's not, and it's not the most durable mounting setup, but it's what we've got. And it's not the least durable either. So it's not the end of the world. It's just, it kind of sucks. It's not that bad, but it's annoying. Jungle Gym Basher. This, if you're gonna build only 2 tiny whoops, this should be one of them. This is so much fun outside. I really love it, and I have the setup for this on Joshua's website, FPV Know It All. The last 75mm rig, thank God, is just like a simple one that I just kind of threw together. This is a Hummingbird converted to 75. These are the 0802 25,000 kV motors that come with the Hummingbird that are kind of they're just, for a 65mm rig, they're okay, but they're not great. You put them on a 75mm rig and they're awesome. The only problem is that the 1mm motor shaft, so they're not going to be super durable, but there's not much else that you're going to do with these motors, so you kind of might as well do this build. This is basically just buying a V3 Hummingbird from Newbie Drone, buying a Meteor 7 V4 frame, moving it over to BT 2.0, and just transferring it over. And this is what you end up with. I'm going to run this on the bigger battery because I don't have the little foam piece for this. But yeah, this would make a very cool little Jungle Gym Basher, you would just, these motors would with the 1mm motor shaft, these would kind of suffer. The iGal motors on the proper Jungle Gym Basher have 1.5mm motor shafts, and they're much stronger. So, but yeah, this is a really cool thing to do with a Hummingbird build. Once you've removed, if you've like swapped the motors out, or you just want to fly it outside. If you've bought a Hummingbird V3 and you want to fly it outside, this is what you should do with it. Yeah, so as you can see, big power. 802s on GemFan biblades at like 25 to 27,000 kV are ridiculous. This being a 75, it makes this basement feel incredibly small. It's so fast. The Goober canopy has a bunch of up. It doesn't have that much up tilt though. Look how much frame is in view. The OSD freaking out is just every newbie drone AIO in the last like year has had this weird OSD freaks out issue. You can still do stuff with this, right? Like, we're ripping pretty good. But compared to a lighter weight... Oh, you son of a bitch. Compared to a lighter weight 65mm rig, you can't do half the stuff with this. But you put this thing outside, and it's going to outperform a 65 for sure. This would make a much better Jungle Gym Basher than a 65. So there's that. It's just you're gonna kill these motors. You're gonna really bang up these motor shafts. So, all right, here we go. Oh God. The other thing I worry about with these 75mm rigs in the house is like my stuff. Like I don't want to break my stuff. You know, I got this cool little bar cart over here with some like really thin glass stuff. These 75mm rigs will absolutely hit your personal belongings hard enough to break them. And they also do that. Like they're just, there's a bunch of extra weight, so they're gonna slide around more, and they're gonna be a lot more difficult to fly inside. If you're a much better pilot than I am, you might be able to make that work. But like, why do that to yourself? Why not use a better tool for the job, a tool that's lighter weight? They're really just. I still, and my God, have I ever tried? But I still cannot find a single benefit of the 75mm motor-to-motor rigs for indoor flying. The 65 rigs just do everything better. Yeah, I mean, is runtime really that important? It shouldn't be. Like, it really shouldn't be. Just buy a couple extra batteries. Oh, wow, that was fun. Man, this thing... like, compared to the way that the Hummingbird flies fine, the V3 Hummingbird, it actually flies really good right out of the box. But compared to the way that this flies, like, this is nuts for outdoor stuff. Like, this is really, really, really fun. So yeah, if you've got a V3 Hummingbird that you're not flying a lot, because maybe you built an Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop, do this to it, man. It won't cost you much. You'll have to buy a set of props. Hopefully you've already converted it to BT 2.0. You're going to buy a set of props and a frame, and you can do this. Look at this runtime too, 3 minutes already. Although on the 65mm rigs, I get 3 minutes. Jesus, it's you know that the extra weight of the 75 offsets the extra runtime, and this thing is way heavier right now because I'm using the 450 mAh battery. Oh God, Jesus, easy. Woo! Oh! Didn't do it on purpose, but I'll take it. And there we got a low battery warning. This battery will probably bounce all the way back up to 3.8 would be my guess. Yeah, look at it. 3.74, 3.75. Yeah, so I could have run this battery even farther down. We're at like 3 minutes and 30. 3 minutes and 40. Yeah, so if all you care about is runtime, okay, fair enough. 75s. But don't. Like, there's a big magical world of lighter weight rigs that we're about to dive into. And yeah, it makes your life so much better from a flying perspective. And it just, yeah, you can do more stuff with the lighter weight rigs and break less of your house. This thing weighs 25.3 grams dry, and with the big fat 450, 37.8 grams. Next up, we're going to finish up with the carbon frame shenanigans. This is the analog carbon framed drift car chasing setup. And man, this thing is nuts for chasing little drift cars. I just have not figured out a way to get analog video onto the big monitors yet. And the analog video compared to Walksnail is like barely watchable. This has Weebleed FPV 0702 28,500 kV motors. It's so lightweight that it doesn't need the 32,000 kV motors. This also has this T-motor AIO, which if you put BlueJ 0.16 on it, it actually works fine. Without BlueJ 0.16, this AIO is useless. And then I have a camera that I don't really like in this at the moment. It's another Caddx Ant. I got to get this camera out of here. Everybody kept saying that the Caddx Ants were the best. To me, they've been the worst. They look terrible to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. But I was a photographer for an awful lot of years, so I kind of know what a good and a bad camera is, and this is a bad camera. Maybe it's magic outside, but I fly tiny whoops inside, so I don't get it. But this is this is basically an analog. A cinematic analog rig, not really meant for freestyle. I've got the lower kV motors on it. You can do some things like crashing. You can do some things, but it just feels super. It just feels kind of underpowered. This frame is also. This frame is also really not good for freestyle because it's going to hurt the motors. You've got any carbon fiber frames in a freestyle setting, you're going to kill motors left and right. So yeah, this is a cinematic build. I try not to crash it much. I fly it low and as accurate as I possibly can. Oh boy. Forgot that was there. For chasing the little drift cars, this is as good as it gets. In terms of flight characteristics, you know, the analog video kind of sucks, but man, this thing is 6 grams lighter than the Walksnail one, and it makes a huge difference. I can hang out on the door of those RC drift cars like it's no big thing. This is so fun to chase those guys with. Having the camera up front, you can fly infinitely low to the ground like this, and you just kind of bump the battery is what's bumping the ground when I'm really low. Having the camera up front, it shows me when I'm really low to the ground. Like I can really tell when I'm super low to the ground, because the camera is like literally closer. So like half, when I get really low, look how much of the frame is filled with, oh, don't you dare. Thank you. Look how much of the frame is filled with the carpet, right? It's like up to the middle of the frame. It literally makes flying lower to the ground easier. Having the camera mounted up front like this. But like I hinted at earlier, Quad 66 and I are trying to figure out how to put the camera up front really low like this on plastic frames, and that'll just be another level of cool. You can see the runtime is not all that great. That's because the carbon fiber frame is blocking a lot of the thrust. It's another problem with these carbon fiber builds. But it's not that bad. I mean, we're at 3.5. We're gonna maybe get this thing to 3 minutes. I mean, what you want to remember though is these are lower kV motors, and I'm flying it very gently. We're gonna do a bunch of freestyle in a minute, and I'm gonna get even better runtime than this with like hammering balls all over the place. I'm really trying my best to get this to 3 minutes. I don't. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get to 3 minutes. For flying low, though, this is the one. For flying low and accurate, this is the one. There we go. That battery's done. Let's see what it bounces back up to. 3.6. We got just over 3 minutes, 3.62. Yeah, so I mean, we ran that battery all the way down. All up weight with the battery is 30 exactly. 30 grams right on the nose with the battery. Without the battery, we are coming in at 21.4. That's another reason that the runtime is a little bit lower, is that this thing is heavy. It's heavy because of the carbon frame. It's also heavy because of this AIO is slightly heavier, maybe like 0.4 of a gram, I think, heavier than the Happy Model AIO. So subtle little things there, but things nonetheless. Now we're into Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoopville, my friends. The first one that we're gonna do is like a newbie drone Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop. This is a Hummingbird V3 that I have upgraded pretty far. BT 2.0, of course. These are the newbie drone 0702 29,000 kV motors. Same camera and canopy. There's the Hummingbird V4. This guy is coming in. Oh, and the Cockroach V3 frame, the lightweight one. This guy is 19.35 grams, pretty damn light, with the battery 27.75. This is like, for me, the final form of the Hummingbird V3. Everything okay? Dog barked really weird. That was strange. There's people up there. I'm sure they're taking care of them. Yeah. If you want to push a Hummingbird almost as far as you possibly can, this is how to do it. And as you're about to see, it flies pretty damn good like this. It's pretty impressive. These and come on, look at that LED 11. Look at that, man. Come on now. You can't tell me you don't want your Tiny Whoop to look that cool. They build LEDs into the corners of the Hummingbird AIO. It's amazing. And they're addressable, so you can do all kinds of crazy shit with them. Check this thing out, man. Kevin Sumner says, you've been in that onesie for 3 hours. I got my money's worth. Riot9 says, nice build. How many subs do I need to get? Some prototype motors. It's not about subs, man. It's never about subs. Bob Noxious says, my bad, it's the Nano. I saw a newbie drone has Walksnail VTX for sale, 125. Daniel says, I'm about a year in and found motors that work for me, trying different cameras that does affect ability. What I wonder what we were talking about back then. I've been just blasting to try to get all these things tested. Why do I not have any video? Is this on a different channel or something? Oh, I think I moved the channel on this thing. Nope, it was just, I don't know. Sometimes when you plug Tiny Whoops in, they just don't have video. So this is the Hummingbird V3 fully upgraded. You could put this into, you could put a different camera and canopy on here that are a little bit lighter and save some weight. But you're not going to get as good of an image as this. I really, with these newbie drone AIOs that use their specific AIO, OSD rather, I find that the BI camera is the one that you want to go with, and the Goober canopy is pretty damn good. So yeah, this is where I'm gonna leave this thing as quote unquote fully upgraded. But technically speaking, you could push this thing farther and make it a little bit lighter. You're just gonna sacrifice some video quality. Whoa. Speaking of video, got a little angry on that crash. Ooh, get in there. So, as you can see, we are now in the world of full tilt freestyle rigs that absolutely hammer. Like, the durability... I'm just going to shut up and fly for a second. Nope, alright, that didn't take long. The durability of these rigs is a big part of the reason that I'm willing to fly them this hard. I could have tried to fly any of those rigs this hard, but they're just going to blow up, and you're just going to spend all of your time fixing them. If you're going to charge like this, you need to have a durable rig, or it's just going to get, like, super annoying, and it just sucks. Like, to freestyle a rig hard that's not durable is really annoying. And so, yeah, part of it's that is the durability. Part of it is also the weight, though. Like, I can only push this hard when the rigs are this light, because the lightness kills a lot of the sliding that you get. When the rigs are heavier and you go to turn a corner like this, they don't stop like that. They just keep going. So, like, I'm coming around here and I turn in here, and, like, a heavier rig is not gonna make this turn, and it's gonna do exactly what that just did, and it's gonna hit something on the outside there. If you're a racer, you're gonna do a lot of this. You're gonna not worry about your horizon line, and you're gonna fly around a lot like this, with just the horizon buried, and that kind of equalizes that a little bit. I don't like the way that looks. For freestyle flying, I do a lot of stick coordination, which is what I'm doing right now, which is mixing yaw and roll to try to keep the horizon as flat as possible. This way, like, if you want somebody to watch your footage that's not an FPV pilot, they won't get sick. Like, oh god. TV shows and movies forever have used... That's unrecoverable. Have used gimbals and just kept the horizon line nice and flat. Fuck you, don't start with me, goggles. And so, for, like, the most watchable freestyle flying, I think one of the things that you can do that has the biggest effect is keep the horizon really flat. And when you keep the horizon flat, the weight of the rig becomes extra important, because you're relying on the rig to, like, corner. Basically, the lighter it is, the sharper it's going to corner, because it's going to have less momentum when you turn to carry. A heavier rig is going to keep sliding to the right, and it's going to slam into the... Whoa, that battery's low. Make sense? So, yeah, if you want to try to keep the horizon nice and flat for, like, more watchable footage, having a lighter weight rig is really, really important. And that's something that you're going to continue to see now as we go even lighter with the last 3 rigs that we're going to fly here. Hang on 1 second. And Patrick is on his way over. I don't want to leave him hanging. Still streaming. All right, so Newbie Drone Hummingbird V3. What an impressive rig to come out of California that you can upgrade with almost all Newbie Drone stuff other than the BT 2.0. Although I bet you Newbie Drone sells A30s. So yeah, you can go on Newbie Drone's website, buy a Hummingbird V3, buy their 0702 29,000 kV motors. They're going to be plug and play. And then buy an A30. They probably have A30 connectors on their website. They might even have BT 2.0 on their website. Swap that in and have something that just rails, man. I am so impressed by this. We're going to call this the ultimate Newbie drone freestyle. I don't know. I don't have a good name for it, but awesome rig. Hats off to Newbie drone for making the Hummingbird V3 really good out of the box, and then very easily upgradable to be like, yeah, just rocking. Rosser does have a Tiny Whoop battery comparison, but unfortunately he left out the batteries that grossly outperform every single other Tiny Whoop battery. So I absolutely hate to say this, but Chris's Tiny Whoop battery comparison is worthless. That is an awful thing to say, but it's the truth. These folded cell BT 2.0 batteries unquestionably demolish every single other battery out there. So every single battery that he tested is worthless because this is so much better. And ask anybody that has gone to BT 2.0 and flown this battery, and they will tell you the exact same thing. This is the only battery to have. Folded cell. A bunch of people make these. You can get these from Weebleed. I like these the best. Tiny Whoop, Tattoo sells them, and there's a couple other companies where you can get these folded cell BT 2.0 batteries. These are unquestionably, I don't give a shit how expensive the testing equipment is. There is absolutely no chance that this battery will not decimate every single other battery that Chris tested. Yeah, take everybody's word for it that flies Tiny Whoops that have tried these. These are the only ones to get. Upside says, flip that shit, there's no place like home. Mark FPV says, I started out with Mobula 7 indoors when I first started. More cinematic flying to get used to it. I had to get a 65mm for indoors. It's just too much power, like you say, for indoors. To be honest, the weight, I know it's hard to believe, but the extra weight of the 75s is a bigger part of the problem than the extra power. You would get used to the extra power eventually. You can't get used to the weight. That extra slide is just impossible for flying inside. Kevin Sumner says, is that an Ant or an Ant Light? Ant Light. I have both, but yeah, that rig had an Ant Light. Mr. Meaty says, what is your favorite analog cam for indoors? Runcam Nano 3, partly because, not purely for image quality. The image quality is fine, but my favorite thing about it is that it fits in the best of the canopies, and it's nice and lightweight. All of the analog cameras kind of look like shit indoors, so you might as well go with the one that's the most durable and the lightest weight. Northern Tier says, on that Hummingbird with the 702 29,000 kV motors, are you running 100% on the motor limit? Absolutely. I just ordered one, have the 29s already. Now I know what I'm going to use them for. Hell yeah, you're going to love it. Simon, with another quick thanks. I asked in the last stream about another tip for biblades coming off as scoring them wasn't working anymore. You suggested dried glue. Perfect. Again, thank you so much. You're certainly welcome. Kevin Sumner says, are they smooth? They're very smooth. Very, very smooth. Unluckiest Number says, when you were looking to put the cam on the front and said the battery was in the way, you could lengthen the battery cord in the back to offset the weight. Technically, yes, you're absolutely right. The problem is there's no way to keep the battery in place. It's going to want to slide forward. Extending the battery leads are kind of heavy, so it's going to add weight. You never know. We're gonna play around with a bunch of different stuff and figure it out. That's a good call. I didn't actually think all the way through that, so thank you for saying that. Rockcrawler says, do you know what's going on with Bardwell? I do not. I haven't talked to Joshua in a while. I need to message him at some point here just to kind of say hey. We used to talk all the time when we had these weekly calls working on his website. But we've backed off of those. Last three rigs are Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoops in slightly different, I don't know, words. This one, this is the Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop on a Cockroach 65 V3 frame with the Tiny Whoop 0702 32,000 kV motors. Out of these three, this is going to be the least powerful rig that we're about to fly, which is ridiculous because these motors make mega fucking power. So let's put this up in the air. Mobula 6 ELRS swapped over to BT 2.0 with a motor swap. and a frame swap. That's it. No crazy modifications, all off the shelf parts, all in. You're gonna spend like $150 on this build, and it flies better. It flies so much better than any other Tiny Whoop that I've ever flown that it's just stupid. It's really dumb how amazing this thing is. This particular one has taken the biggest beating, and as you can see, it is starting to die. The VTX is starting to go. I had the wrong module in, which is why ELRS wasn't binding, so that's not its fault. But yeah, this AIO has had a hell of a long life. All the power in the world. 32,000 kV 702s on a lightweight rig are just ridiculous. I mean, like, the hang time is just bananas. That Hummingbird V3 flies awesome. This is a whole... yeah. Fuck you. Come on, really? You're gonna do me like this? I don't want to kill the entire battery trying to get it unstuck, but... You fuck. Alright, come on. Here we go. Alright. Come on. These, so now up at the, like, 32,000 kV, these motors become harder to fly. Because they make so much power, it's just chaos. But they make enough power to do shit like this. Okay, hold on. They make enough power to do shit like this. And so they literally open up a whole extra world of three-dimensional movements that we used to only be able to do outside. You're gonna hit the ceiling a lot, though. They're really nuts. I'm kind of used to flying the lower powered rigs for the last hour and like 10 batteries, so I really need to adjust, and I'm gonna have an even harder time adjusting to the next two rigs that I'm gonna fly. But if you put 15-20 batteries in a row through one of these rigs, you'll start to get used to the power. And it's just magic, man. It's just wild. No prop wash whatsoever because they have so much power that the response time is, like, absurd. And, like, yeah, you can just do stuff with these that you cannot do with anything else. It is really another level entirely. And I swear to God, every single person that has built one of these at this point has messaged me and said, "Holy shit, dude! Why is everyone not flying this?" But you're gonna crash a lot. Just be okay with it. You're gonna get a lot better because you're gonna be pushing your limits, and eventually you're gonna get used to it. The real key to the ultimate freestyle Tiny Whoop is to just fly it over and over, like, just fly only it. And with how much testing I do the opposite of that. But there have been periods where I've flown 50, 60, 100 batteries in a row through these rigs, and it's amazing. It's so cool. Like, the stuff that I become able to pull off is just ridiculous. So yeah, don't mind the mega crashing. It's gonna happen to you too. Enjoy it. You don't have to go out in the garage to fix it. You can just fix it in the comfort of your own home, and all will be right with the world. It's magical. Dry weight is 18.8 grams, all up 27.3. Next up, we've got a different frame, but basically the exact same build. We're going to step it up to a slightly heavier rig. This is the BetaFPV crown frame with the new Tiny Whoop EX0802 33,000 kV motors. Bigger stator, 802. What we were just flying was 702. Much bigger. 802 is much bigger than 702. Unfortunately, it is a little bit heavier. Right on 20 grams dry, which makes it 28.5 wet. Not wet, sorry. All up. Wet weights are when you factor in gasoline in the motorsport world. Yeah, more power. Significantly more power. A bigger motor, a physically bigger statored motor, and more kV. The extra weight is tough. I actually prefer the way that the rig that I was just flying performs, but I'm testing these motors out, and they're incredibly fun because they make so much grunt, so much power. Oh god, that was a hard one. The Weedlead FPV crown frame is ever so slightly lighter than the Cockroach 65 frame, but I actually prefer the Cockroach 65 frame. Look at that throw across the room. Like, these are just dumb. These motors are just stupid. Yeah, there he is. Hey, let's get him. No, we're good. Last two rigs, good timing. Yeah, so these motors are a bit much on this, but I'm looking forward to getting these motors onto the Walksnail 65mm build.
Look at this onesie.
Look at this onesie.
Is this a hard-on you got here? What is that?
It's a chest on.
Oh.
Yeah, these motors are nutty, man. If you have like a big space that you want to fly in, these motors will get the job done, man. If you have like a big house, high ceilings, or a warehouse or some shit, these motors are dope. Be prepared to crash though, and oh god. Also keep in mind these motors are not going to be as durable as the 702s. The EX designation of these 802s means that they have a one-piece bell, which is notorious for throwing magnets. So yeah, the EX motors are just not quite as durable. Still pretty damn durable though. Also, they're heavier, so you're going to hit harder. The 702s are so lightweight that that they crash better, and they bend motor shafts less often. Look at these fucking motors. God, the response time on these motors is just bananas. Hey. I'm also having this AIO might have the more noisy gyro, and I can't get the tune quite as good on this rig, so every once in a while you're seeing a little bit of prop wash. Yeah, that's not because of these motors or anything. God damn it!
You're screwed. I got
it. You should be able to reach from the left. Oh, yeah, you got it. Just knock shit everywhere. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, dude. Yeah, these are really interesting motors. These are the Tiny Whoop Hex 0802 33,000 kV. Very, very, very fun motors. But for the ultimate freestyle Tiny Whoop, they're a bit much. 702s are really the magic for the analog rigs. These motors, I think, are going to become magic when paired with Walksnail for the extra power. But boy, oh boy, are these fun. Boy, oh boy. Last build. We weighed this, right? Yeah. Let me refresh your memory on the weight, and I'll show you the still a pretty big weight difference here. So these guys dry 20 grams right on the nose, these 702 36,000s, 19.3 grams. So last but obviously not least, this is the Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop in the crown frame on the new Firefly 702 36,000 kV motors. I think these motors are a bit much. Very fun, but for this little room, I think this is a little bit too much kV. I could just go into Betaflight and limit hit the motor limiting a little bit, and all will be right with the world. If I went to a spot that was massive, I'd be able to turn them up and get some more power, so that'd be cool. I put the battery in reversed. But yeah, super, super, super fun. If you have a big space to fly in, these motors are it. Or the 802s, either or. But I think these are it. You get the benefits of the super lightweight 702s, but mega, 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 mega kV. Here they are. Ready for chaos? There it is. That's what they do.
Jesus.
Like, it's just...
Jesus Christ. Is it safe?
It's not safe. It's not even a little bit safe. I have a really hard time keeping up with how fast these motors are. Like, my 42-year-old brain is just at its absolute limit with these motors. It's a lot, but fuck is it fun. And if I was flying these upstairs, they would be amazing. Like, these motors deserve a bigger space. I think it's behind the charger. You mind grabbing it again? Thank you, dude. Yeah, they're a lot. But all of the extra power that these have, yet again, allow you to do different stuff. Not different stuff, but like more momentum-based, off-throttle, crazy shit. Like the big throw that I always show you. Which, with these guys, it's just, like, and not to mention, like, the recovery, like, just being able to stop like that, that's ridiculous. Like, it's really mind-blowing stuff. Oh, boo. The crown frame works really well on here. I should... No, I'm not going to be able to get out of there. Damn it. Lots of crashes with this rig. Lots of fun, though, at the same time.
Holes in the wall.
Yeah, holes in the wall. I mean, no, because they're so light, right? They're still 702, so the damn thing is still less than 20 grams. Oh, boy. That was close to my head. Like, even... I do not think I don't think for most people these are the right motors, but I also think that everyone should buy these motors. I think that everybody should try these motors. I don't think you should settle on them. Although, again, you can just motor limit them down. I do genuinely think that everyone should buy these because this is not like flying a tiny whoop, man. This is like flying a little miniature 5-inch rig and just as like a really agile fruit fly or something. It's just absurd. It's so crazy. It's not like any other tiny whoop. Although, I mean, the 32,000s make great power, and you can do most of the stuff. But Jesus, this is just stupid that what you can do with these, and like it opens your eyes to what's possible. Like, even if it's too much and you crash constantly, it lets you know, like, there's this ridiculous world of horsepower available to us.
The ceiling's perfect.
Jesus.
The spongy ceiling's perfect.
I know, right? Even with the battery, like, sagging down, it's still just hammers. This battery's a little low, though. And look at the runtime. Look at the runtime, guys. 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Anybody that says, oh, no, I can't go with the high KV motors, is going to kill my runtime. No. Your flying is what's going to kill your runtime. plowing like 50% throttle the entire battery, that's what's going to kill your runtime.
But Aaron, it's fun.
For freestyle flying, you're not going to be that deep into the battery. For most, you're going to fly around at like 30%, you're going to blip the throttle. And then you're going to blip the throttle again. And like the total, throughout the total run of the battery, you're going to be at 100% throttle for like 3 whole seconds, right? Because you blip it for like a quarter of a second. So yeah, don't fear the KV. Fear your flying style. If you're covering a lot of ground and you're flying really fast and you go to a higher KV motor and you start covering more ground and flying even faster, sure, your runtime is going to go down. But if you fly at the same pace and then you just use it as a freestyle rig for the throttle blips, you're going to lose barely any runtime. Don't be afraid of the KV. If anything, you could just motor limit them down and away you go. How about that for a fleet review? That's all of them. That is all the Tiny Whoops. Back to back to back to back to back to back to back.
Are things going to improve in the future?
Why, yes. I mean, I think we're starting to hit. I think we're at a point where the improvements are going to be smaller. I think this is approaching. Yeah, I think we're at diminishing returnville. But we'll see.
We already have laser pointer.
Yeah, for real. I am very optimistic about the 603 motor size. I think the 603 motor size could be like the dark horse. And I'm scheming on some shit. So that could be another little. So the 603 motor size is barely heavier than the 702s, but lighter than the 802s. And a stator that is 3 millimeters tall is going to do more work because the vertical parts of the windings is where all of the work gets done than a stator that's wider. Unfortunately, the taller stators can overheat, so that might be the problem with the 603s, especially because the ratio is kind of brutal. 6 wide, 3 tall. That's a 1-to-2 ratio. That's kind of nuts. You really want like a 3-to-1 ratio. So, yeah, heat might be the problem of the 603s, but the 603 motors, if we can get them in the 30+ thousand kVs, they should make more power for their weight than the 802s and the 702s. But they're always going to be heavier than the 702s, and there is like a real magic to how lightweight the 702s are. So, I don't know. These Firefly 702s might be the best Tiny Whoop motor we ever get. But stay tuned for some 603 loving, hopefully. Daniel1964 says, I really like the 28,500 kV motors. I have a set of the 32,000 motors coming. Can't wait to try them. That's with the standard Mobula 6 camera. Upside says a bunch of stuff that I can't understand again. Sorry, Upside. Damon says, do you think having a higher kV motor limited would increase responsiveness? Absolutely not. I suspect we could motor limit down to 32K or lower to get similar responsiveness with longer run. No, if possible, you want to run at 100% motor limiting with the appropriate KV. Motor limiting down, there are very, very, very subtle negatives. The biggest negative is that our throttle comes in. The throttle between our transmitter and the quad comes in steps, and it comes in 256 steps. When you motor limit, you cut down on that number of steps, so you lose a little bit of throttle resolution by motor limiting. I have throttle limited down to 70% and flown tons of batteries back to back and not been able to tell the difference on 5-inch rigs, which are the rigs that you can really tell the difference with subtle stuff like that. So it's not a big problem, but it's there. Like, it's happening. So yeah, you don't want that. I've mentioned previously that higher kV motors are more efficient. They use that efficiency to make the extra power. that extra efficiency will never come out in runtime. It will only come out in extra power. So a 36,000 kV motor limited down to 32, will be either exactly the same efficiency as a 32,000 kV motor at 100%, or potentially a little bit less. So yeah, I know what you're getting at, Damon. It's cool. I can tell you've been listening recently. That's rad. And your theory is sound. I've never talked all the way through this, but yeah, no, you will not gain efficiency by motor limiting ever. You will only ever lose the tiniest little bit. It's imperceptible though. I've never noticed it, and I flew so many batteries. I had 2 identical rigs. One of them was on 1800 kV. 18. What are 5-inch motors? Are they 1800 kV? 18,000. 1800. 1800.
I know, that's how far it's gone.
Yeah, Jesus.
36,000
1800. One of them was on 1800 kV motors. The other one was on 2400 kV motors, both on 6S. 2400s, motor limited down. I flew hundreds of batteries back to back on them. Never could tell a difference in runtime or flight feel. So throttle limiting is totally safe. Motor limiting is totally safe, but the keyboard commandos on the internet that have done more, learning than flying, are very quick to point out that motor limiting will cause a slight reduction in, they won't say slight, they'll say much less efficiency. That's wrong. And less throttle resolution. And while they're right, technically, in the real world, just motor limit. It's awesome. You're going to love it. Right now, with the last comment of the live stream, he says, can we get some quiet in the cheap seats? I don't know. Be good, friends. My name's Aaron Ciotti. Head on over to CiottiFPV. Hey, this is my full-time job. I forgot to mention. Head on over to CiottiFPV.com to support me. Be good. Click all the buttons. Lots of fun stuff. Join my Patreon. Click all the affiliate links. Do the things. Love you guys. Be good. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. I might start tomorrow night's stream a little bit early because it doesn't look like Joshua's going to stream. No promises. But yeah, maybe I'll come on. I'll do the regular 10 to 12 time slot, but I might start at 9 or maybe even 8 tomorrow night. Who knows? Be good, friends. Here comes some flying from something. Cinewhooping at Pride, Atlanta this year. Wait, no. I need this and then this. There we go. See you tomorrow night, friends. Bye-bye!